Tonight, welcome to the school committee meeting for Thursday, June 19th, 2014. Tonight's meeting is being broadcast through Milford Television and media from Milford Daily News, the Town Crier, the Patch are all in attendance. If anyone would like to make a video or audio recording of this meeting that you can transmit the meeting through any medium, please let me or any other member of the committee know. Thank you. All right, so start off with welcome everyone. It's great to see so many smiling faces, and certainly thank you to all the committed parents for music and supporters that are here tonight. Let's go ahead and get ourselves started off with item 1 on the agenda. Would be actually the recognition of retiring teachers. Last day of school today. We want to take an opportunity to thank those that have spent a career here and certainly given a lot to the students and to the town of Milford. So
in your back, it's the list of the number of years also.
Okay, so if we can get to, just get that for me here. Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and we do have letters that the school committee will be giving to those retiring members and to those retiring teachers. And I'm just going to go through here real quickly here. So I'm going to apologize in advance if I mispronounce anyone's name, but I will do my best here. So I know we have at least one member that is here. We did extend an invitation to all the teachers, as it is the last day of school, and a warm one at that. I know that we do have at least one teacher that is here as well. So, so we'll start off with Connie Burns, 32 years of service, assistant principal of Middle School East. Thank you, Connie.
Next, by the way, is at my house right now, celebrating with all of the other Middle School East teachers the last day of school. So we understand why Connie's not here right now.
Yes. After 2 hours in the gym with them this morning at a graduation, I can understand. Next one up, and I believe she actually is in the audience, is Dorothy, but we call her Dottie Moffett, 38 years of service. Dottie was a music teacher at Memorial Elementary School. Next we have Frances Marcone, 23 years of service, kindergarten teacher, also at Memorial Elementary School. Next we have William, we call him Bill, Gary, 29 years of service, science teacher at Milford High School. Next is Edward Thoreau, 29 years of service, special education teacher at Milford High School. Next one we have is Carolyn Brandt, 22 years of service, 7th grade math teacher at Stacy Middle School. Enjoy your time. Thank you. Next we have Barbara Wedicke, 14 years of service, 6th grade pullout special education at Stacy Middle School. Nancy Brackett, 22 years of service, art teacher at Woodland Elementary School. Make sure I don't get this one wrong. Hasina Khan, 27 years, school psychologist at Woodland Elementary School. Teresa Floyd, 36 years of service, a special education teacher at Brookside Elementary School. Before we clap, I do want to just say, Teresa, I understand that there was a typo in the article that went out to the Milford Patch, so I do apologize. I want to make sure we did mention specifically what she did. So thank you so much, Terry, for all your years of service. Bonnie Buffalo Darian, 18 years of service, foreign language teacher at Stacy Middle School. Barbara Tominski, 28 years of service, 8th grade, Middle School East, social studies teacher. And that's the end of my list. Wow, that is an awful lot of years of teaching as I kind of look through it here. So thank you, each and every one of you, for your many decades of service to the town of Milford, as well as to the countless numbers of students whose lives you've touched. Thank you. All right. For the committee, once again, we do have letters and thank you notes that we'll be sending around for signature. And we'll certainly, if you want to, feel free to make a note as we pass those around this evening. All right. Next, we do have a recognition of a Milford High School student recognition and a corporate gift and donation. So where are we here?
It's Tommy Holmes.
Yep. So we have Tommy. All right. Welcome.
Thank you.
So we have, you brought quite a crowd with you.
You also just
Yes.
got it. Do you have your wisdom teeth out today?
I had 4 out this morning, 4 impacted.
You are a trooper. So do you go by Tommy or Thomas?
Tommy.
Tommy. All right, so Tommy, we are here to recognize you this evening for your efforts in procuring a donation of both Nikon and Dropbox for business and the QTR print tool, software and licensing. So first and foremost, thank you so much for the work that you did. Can you tell us a little bit about how did you identify the need, and how did you go through getting a donation from each of those groups?
So throughout my freshman year up to about now, I've interned in the practical arts department for photography teacher Mr. Jose Pinto. I've helped him teach his classes, his Photo 1, his graphic design, and various other classes. And a problem that we seem to face every single semester is we have a shortage of cameras, and we don't know if they get lost, if, sometimes they don't work, sometimes they get outdated. So it's hard for us to buy the number that we need with the budget constraints and all, and still have enough to circulate around the classroom and give to kids who might not have cameras of their own. So I wrote to the president of Nikon, Rex Lee, and he David Lee, excuse me, and he got back to me and he said, I really want to help it out. I think that you guys are a great cause, and I think that you're really helping out the kids of America learn about photography, and it's something I'm very passionate about. So I like to share that passion with other people.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for all of your hard work. Congratulations. And not only have you helped your peers, but for many years to come. So thank you so much. And we've actually taken advantage of Dropbox for each and every school committee meeting. Well, it works beautifully. I think sometimes the technology of some of my peers and myself, I'll only guild myself into this, is somewhat limited. So maybe I'll have you come to the next one. You can make sure that I get it right next time. But thank you so much.
Mr. Chair, if
Yes.
you would like to accept the gift, the values
Do you wanna do that now?
of Tom's hard work are in the gift folder. Might be appropriate.
Unless the school committee objects, I think we can do that. Okay. So let me get to, let me go through here and do this. Okay, so we'll start off with the QRT print tool software license. The first of which is for $40. So we do need to take a motion and an acceptance for this. Take a motion from Mike, second from Patrick. All in favor? It is unanimous. Motion passes. The next one is for the recurring subscription to Dropbox for business. This is quite a donation, $800 per year for this donation, and wonderful gift. This is from the Drew Hudson, founder and CEO of Dropbox. So I'll take a motion from Joe, second from Dawn. All in favor? Motion has passed. All right, and the final one here that we have, I believe this is the final one, under this section is from David Lee, President and CEO of Nikon USA. This is a gift in kind. This is 20 Nikon J1 cameras with an approximate value of $10,000. Wow. That is, you work very hard, Tommy.
I try.
So if I can take a motion from Joey, a second from Jen, and all in favor. It's with pleasure I'm to tell you that they've all been passed unanimously by the Milford School Committee. Thank you so much, and congratulations once
Thank you,
again.
Mr. Harrison.
Thank you.
All right, we will hold off on the rest of the gifts until the report of the Assistant Superintendent. We do have a couple more gifts to attend to as well. All right, the next piece on the agenda is the approval of minutes. My understanding is that the minutes have been delayed or not ready for this meeting, so we have asked for an exception. So we will table this item and move this into the next meeting. Next up, we have announcements and correspondence. Patrick?
I have an announcement I'd like to make and a piece of correspondence I'd like to discuss. I would first like to extend my apologies to the committee for missing the meeting, our last meeting. I was in New Jersey on business, and I know that the meeting became particularly contentious as to certain procedural matters, and I think that the presence of the senior members to lend a voice whenever questions of procedure come up can be particularly helpful. As the former chairman of this committee, I always considered my most important duties in this order to be, first, to maintain the integrity of the Milford Public Schools, and second, to make sure that every member on this committee had an equal voice. We're 7 equals in this room, and each of us has an opinion that matters just as much as the other. This committee, to my knowledge, has never formally adopted Robert's Rules of Order, but we do follow a modified version of Robert's Rules, where we do elect a chairperson, and that chairperson has the responsibility of making subcommittee appointments, tabling motions, and ending discussions. I know that it's not an easy task to balance the requirements of maintaining the integrity of the school system against the opinions of the various members who have a right to speak. The legislature of this legislature of this Commonwealth has, in its wisdom, enacted the open meeting law. And the open meeting law says that any deliberations by a public body, such as ours, need to occur in the open, and that all members of the public have right to have access to one of our meetings. It's one of the reasons why we post our agendas and we televise these meetings. The legislature, also in its wisdom, has carved out certain exceptions to the open meeting law, where members of public boards, of deliberative bodies, have a right, I might even say a responsibility, to hold some of these meetings outside of the public eye in what we call an executive session. One of the very specific carve-outs of the open meeting law and is allowed to be discussed in executive session are potential disciplinary actions against any public employee. And there are a number of good reasons for that, certainly, why any deliberative body should discuss the potential for disciplining any public employee in executive session. Of course, there are the regular contract reasons. Of course, we need to make sure that we're in compliance with contracts. There are also potential defamation reasons. We don't want to allow slander to bring to life any liability for the school committee. Also, as a deliberative body, we have a third concern, where as state actors, we have a responsibility not to deprive any employee of the public schools from their due process rights afforded by both the U.S. Constitution and the Massachusetts Constitution. And so, as such, I think it's very important that we recognize that any discussion of disciplinary action to be taken towards any member, any employee of the Milford Public Schools should always be done in executive session. And if such discussion begins in an open session, the proper act by the chair of this committee would be to table a motion if a motion had been made, or end discussion if discussion had begun. Any member then should approach the chair and should ask for an executive session to discuss that disciplinary action. And I think that that is the way that we protect the integrity not only of this board, but also the best interests of the Milford Public Schools. Having been chair, having been a member of this committee, on one occasion, I had my discussion ended. And I can tell you it didn't feel great. I also had the unfortunate responsibility of having to end discussions on 2 occasions. And I can tell you that that takes a lot more out of you than being told discussion is being ended. It's hurtful, and you think about it. You know, a couple of weeks, you deliberate on whether you did the right thing or not. And so I commend the chair for stopping discussion on any disciplinary action, because I think it needed to be stopped. And so I would also like to mention that since I wasn't at the last meeting, I had an opportunity to correspond with the superintendent and several members of the staff over at the Woodland School. And they were regarding the concerns that Mr. Catrocchio brought up. And it's my opinion that no member needs to approach the chairman to discuss potential disciplinary action for any member of the Milford Public Schools as of today. And I hope that after the superintendent has an opportunity to present that information to the remainder of the board, that will be your feeling as well. So again, I apologize for missing the last meeting, and I thank you for your time, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Patrick. All right. Any other announcements?
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to a lot of the letters that were written by a lot of the parents. And first of all, I want to thank all of you for coming here. I think this is tremendous. I love to see the passion. And there was a time before I was on this board, I was pretty passionate about something. And I came here, just like you are tonight, to fight for a cause. And I did that because it was the right thing to do. And I'm awfully proud that I did that. And hopefully, you know, this might inspire some of you to come join us on the school committee, because that's what we need, is passionate people. You know, it's unfortunate that, you know, it came down due to a scheduling conflict that we ended up in a violation of a school policy. As I mentioned in the meeting, you know, the school committee's role and the administration is to make sure that we're following all the policies that are set by this district. We sign off on an annual plan and an annual budget, and it's based on those policies. School committee also needs to be informed, and that was my point. I didn't feel like I was informed. You know, I'll be talking about that later tonight, but I said all along, and I thought I couldn't have been any more clear, that I love the strings program. I think it's fantastic. I think everything that your children do in that program is tremendous for the community, for their growth, for the you know, for Milford. It's just a tremendous asset, and I would hate to see that be impacted in a negative way, and I try to make that clear. You know, unfortunately, you know, we live in Milford, and there's some Milford politics, and things can get twisted and blown out of proportion. So that's just the way it is. I've been through it before. You know, I know some of the tactics some of the politicians use. Not a big fan of it, but I'll tell you something. The one thing I've always done is come here and told the truth and the facts. And so all I did was present a violation, all right? So I have some really great news for all of you, and that is last night I talked to Craig Consigli, and his response to me was, we're all set. And kind of taken by it, I was like, well, what do you mean we're all set? And he explained to me that what happened was there was a conflict in the schedule. And the only way he could get the kids into the program, obviously, you know, was impacting Jim. But he also informed me that Diane Pinto told him, explained to him that we were within a violation. Unfortunately, the schedule was already set. It's pretty tough to rip a schedule apart in the middle of the school year. So, you know, I guess the decision was made to fix it for this upcoming year. So I was happy to report from my conversation with Craig that he informed me that he's scheduled all of the music classes so that they're not overlapping one another, and that at the Woodland School, all of the kids that want to be involved in strings will be coming out of the music program, We'll have full participation in gym next year. So I wanted to publicly thank Craig Consigli and Diane Pinto for bringing that up and getting it addressed. And it looks like we're all set for next year. So unfortunately, I just found that out last night, and I wish it could have been communicated to all of you prior. But again, I'm really thankful that you all came out. I think it's a great, community outpouring. It's fantastic. And then the other thing that I'll mention while everybody's here, and in fairness to Bob, in fairness to the comments that you just made, Pat, was I talked to Jerry Moody this week, and he explained to me that my request of a suspension was probably taking it a little too far. And it's because in the contract of Bob's that suspensions are reserved for extreme things. Let's say he was, as Jerry said, if he was drinking and driving or something like that, which this was not that. So, so I'll be pulling that back later in the evening. I reached out to Bob during the week to let him know that despite again what the radio circus loves to say around here in this town, that I was out to get Bob's job. And I'll say it in front of all the citizens in this town and in front of Bob, the last thing I want is for you to leave. We're all here to make Bob a better superintendent. And if calling out a violation and making it better and the communication starts flowing, that's better for Bob, the town, the district, and our kids. So that's the ultimate goal, is just to make sure that we're making constant improvements and identifying areas of improvement and making sure those changes take place. So I know the next speech, part of this is invitation to speak. So that's why I wanted to jump in here before and just let you all know that the program is safe. It's not going anywhere. Wasn't my intention, and again, my true intention was to talk about the lack of communication and keeping us informed. Thank you.
Any other members? Just one last thing I did want to just comment on. I did receive, as we all did, several communications and correspondence from really a wide array of community members, faculty, students, former students, and I want to thank you guys. I know that I want to thank each and every one of you. I know that it's never easy to reach out, and sometimes it's you question that as you're writing it, and what are you going to say, and how do you make sure that you get your point across? And what I would say is thank you for reaching out. Thank you for letting us know. That's our responsibility as elected officials, is to make sure that we are listening continuously to the public, and the most important way to do that is to be able to hear from you. I had an opportunity to attend 8th grade graduation earlier today. Certainly want to congratulate not only the students of the graduating 8th grade class of 2014, but the high school graduating class of 2018, which is a little daunting to think about because it seems so far away and yet so close. And certainly congratulations to each of the faculty. And I had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Baudet as well, spoke with a number of other faculty members and parents, and continued to hear the concerns and questions. Also had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Consigli as well today. He did confirm exactly as Dawn just said. Very, very pleased to report that not only will the Strings program continue to remain alive and well, and as somebody who is a beneficiary of every musical program that exists in this school, and that's me, having gone through it. In fact, I see two of my former actually about 4 of my former music teachers actually sitting in the room from a variety of places. My son is actually in the Strings program. He's actually he just finished 4th grade today. He's actually been in it for the last 2 years. I'm not sure whose name gets said more around my house, but I'm pretty sure Mr. Baudet's is pretty well up there. So as a parent, I'd like to thank you for your dedication and hard work. And it was wonderful to hear the students outside playing today. It was beautiful. They did a really nice job. So thank you to them. Thank you to the parents who reached out. Thank you to the community members who reached out. And again, not only will the Strings program continue on, it will continue to flourish with the hard work and the faculty and the students and the parents that sacrifice for that, but it will not be an after-school activity. It will be during class. It will be during the school day. So many of the concerns that were brought up of, if it moves to after school, it may impact students' ability, parents who work out of town. As a parent who works out of town, believe me, as I was reading it, I'm saying, oh, this could have been me that was writing it. I understand, and I'm very, very pleased that, not surprised, but very, very pleased that Mr. Consigli was able to make the schedule changes, and we're able to stay in compliance with our own policies and procedures around wellness, as well as be able to continue to offer the strings program as a during school program. So we'll move on from here unless any other members have any announcements. Bob, anything to add?
No, not at this time.
Okay, so we move on to our next agenda item, and that would be invitation to speak. Just so that for many of you who may or may not be watching, have had an opportunity to go through this process before, just want to outline kind of what invitation to speak is, just so everyone's aware. All regular and special meetings of the school committee shall be open to the public. Executive sessions will be held only as prescribed by the statutes of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, some of which were outlined earlier. School committee desires citizens of the district to attend its meetings so that they may become better acquainted with the operations and programs of our local public schools. In addition to the committee would like the opportunity to hear the wishes and ideas of the public, in order that all citizens who wish to be heard from the committee before the committee have a chance to ensure their ability of the committee to conduct the district's business in an orderly manner. The following rules and procedures have been adopted. At each regular school committee meeting, individuals or groups representatives will be invited to address the committee, and that's at this point in the agenda where we open it up for invitation to speak. The length of the public participation segment shall be determined by the chair. Speakers will be encouraged to present their material in 5 minutes. The presiding chairman may permit extensions of this time limit. Improper conduct and remarks will not be allowed. Defamatory or abusive remarks are always out of order. If a speaker persists in improper conduct or remarks, the chairman may terminate that individual's privilege to address. All remarks will be addressed through the chair of the meeting. Speakers may offer such objective criticisms of the school operations and programs as concerned of them. In the public session, the committee will not hear personal complaints of school personnel nor against any member of the school community. Under most circumstances, administrative channels are the proper means for disposition of legitimate complaints involving staff members. As you can see, I was reading this. This wasn't something I typed up before we came in here. This is just as we sort of understand what invitation really means and how we kind of talk through it. So, at this time, we will move into invitation to speak. Is there anyone here that would like to participate in invitation to speak? Yes, come on in and have a seat. If you would just let us know your name.
My name is Carol Tebbets. I'm on the high school art, one of the 2 high school art teachers. I just wanted to clarify a couple points that were made by Mr. Quattrocchio at the last meeting, sort of in the spirit of clarification. One point was made early on that stipends were tied to teaching. Stipends actually are given in order to reimburse people, CTLs and directors, for their time outside of school, not reimbursement for teaching classes. I felt that was a little bit unclear, and I wanted our viewing audience to understand that directors and CTLs put enormous amounts of time in outside of school hours on behalf of their department, and the stipend, which is actually fairly small in relation to other area towns, is a small compensation for that time. Okay. I also wanted to clarify Nadine's role as CTL on behalf of the art department. 2 years ago, the current CTL was retiring. She announced her retirement in mid-spring. At that point in time, I was the most qualified person to take on that role in the art department. And for multiple personal reasons, I didn't feel that I was able to take that on at the time. I approached Nadine and asked her if she would be willing to combine the 2 departments because she's demonstrated strong leadership skills. She actually declined my first request saying that she wanted the entire art department to be on board with that, and she wouldn't even consider it unless we were all in unison. We met, and at that point in time, all 7 art teachers unanimously agreed to have Nadine take on that role for us, and we went forward with that. I do have a letter that I'd like to distribute to everyone. The majority of the art department has signed that letter in agreement that Nadine did indeed take that on at our request, and I'd like everyone to recognize that that's how she came to be the CTL of the art department, and the majority of the department is in agreement that she's done a marvelous job in that role. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nadine?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'd like to take a few minutes to speak and kind of reflect on some of the things that happened at our last meeting. I want to make it clear that I obviously know the ladies and gentlemen that are a part of our administration here in the Milford Public Schools. I am aware of Mr. Walsh because I've seen him at many of our events, as well as Mr. Harrison through his participation in the show. Actually, it's the first time I actually met you. But as far as the other members of the committee, I have not met you, nor have I spoken with you, nor have I received correspondence from you except over the last couple days. I spend a lot of time in the public eye. I speak constantly. I speak to public all the time. And I will tell you that this is the first time in the 16 years I've been in Milford Public Schools that I've actually been nervous addressing a committee. And I think it's because I felt that some of the comments from our last meeting of the school committee were very personal. I feel like I need to address them publicly so that people understand that integrity is a very, very dear thing to me and the most important aspect of my teaching and my professional career as well as my personal career. I want to respond to 2 issues. I'll try to be quick, but I think you need the background of some of these things so you understand where we're coming from. I appreciate the efforts of Mr. Consigli to address the string pullout issues at Woodland. I want to tell you that when our string program was truly successful, we pulled out from general ed classes on a rotating basis. And that was when Mr. Moffat, who is here now supporting the music program, was teaching at this level. We've been doing this way before him, probably about 45 years, at least 45 years. At that point in time, we offered beginning 3rd grade strings, we offered beginning 4th grade strings, and we offered 2nd year instruction to our 4th graders. At some point in our last 8-9 years, our Woodland school was not performing and meeting their yearly AYP. So we were asked to stop all pullouts from everything. So there was no pullouts from general ed at all. At that point, I sat down with the other members of the specialists. We talked about what we could do because we knew that not doing pullouts during the day would ruin our program eventually. All of the specialists sat down and we said, we don't want to hurt other programs. If we pull out from art, they only meet once a week. The kids won't get art, so we weren't going to touch that. If we pulled out from, I think it was library or media services at the time, they only had that once a week, so we weren't going to touch that. And I believe Spanish was being offered at the time. I just can't truly remember, but we didn't want to touch anything that was once a week. So the conclusion was, with the agreement of the phys ed teachers and the art teachers and the music teachers and all the specialists, including, I don't remember if we were doing CTLs at the time or if Mr. Crescenzi was still here as the director, but we were all in agreement that we would go forth and pull out from music first and then from phys ed, because those 2 classes met twice a week. And that way we would do the least damage to the other programs and to the music program. We anticipated that that would be a short-term solution. It did not turn out to be a short-term solution. And I'm going to say mainly because we haven't had there's a lot of change in the administration at Woodland over the past 8 years. And so we were waiting for a period of time where it was steady and we could readdress these issues. I want to say also, the specialists work very closely together. I had many gym teachers call and ask if they wanted me to come here and be supportive of what was going on here tonight. You can see many of the music teachers are here. Oh my goodness. Many of them, both retired and current teachers. And that's a remarkable thing. I did not know that we would have this kind of response. And I don't know what to say about that except for thank you. So that's the history of the pullouts. The part that, and I thank you, Mr. Consigli, for working with us to make that happen. But I also want to tell you, currently we have a surviving string program. We do not have a truly successful string program. We have been looking for and needed another, and our numbers have supported the need for another teacher for many years before I was here. We have an opportunity right now. The only time that kids can come out of classes is going to be during music, which is fabulous. But with Mr. Baudet's schedule, he has 3 periods a day where that's possible because he is committed to other schedules at other schools. I have Dottie Moffett retiring this year. She's .4, I believe. If this committee were to support a .6 addition to that, I could hire a .6 string teacher and a .4 general ed teacher, and we could make this program what it used to be. In addition, in order to make the schedule work, we had to cut our beginning strings in the 4th grade. So our program would be roughly another 100 students out of Woodland if we were able to provide that service again. Okay. The second part that I'd like to address is a part that's difficult for me because this is personal. Mr. Quattrocchio, you asked for certain things about, you stated, and what came off to me watching the committee meeting online as fact. And honestly, sir, there were some inaccurate issues in there that I'd like to set straight so that people know. Okay. When you sat down and you went through the books and you said the director of music is receiving multiple stipends, you did neglect to discuss what they were. And the way that came across in my feeling was that, and you actually said something about double dipping, was that I was stealing from the school department. I'm sorry, sir, that's how I felt, okay? All right, thank you, I appreciate you acknowledging that, thank you. I want to set that straight so that the community knows exactly what I get paid for and what I do here. And then if you choose to alter that, then that's okay, at least they know. I received $2,900 roughly to do marching band and concert band rehearsals. I have rehearsals weekly through the fall. I attend all the football games. I conduct and work with my kids. We do parades. We get called for numerous community events throughout the year. If we would take those hours and divide them into the stipend I get, then I'm making a lot of money. And that's sarcasm because I'm really not. Okay. I receive just under $2,000 to teach our jazz ensemble here. We rehearse weekly. We get called for a number of gigs, a number of community events where we're asked to perform at. We have concerts all over the place. And again, if we were to divide that time and figure out what it was per hour, I think we would see that, I hope you would agree, that I am, you're getting a lot of effort for the money that the school system pays me for that. The director of music stipend is $21.50 a year plus $80 per teachers. I have 11 teachers. My contract says I have to teach a maximum of 3 classes. There have been years when I've taught far more than 3 classes and years when I've taught less. This year I taught two classes and also offered what I always offered, whether it was when I was teaching full-time or as a director. I offer my kids the opportunity to take independent studies because it gives them a chance in their schedule to do things they can't do otherwise. if the phys ed department came in, you would hear them tell you how they are oversubscribed to phys ed because the kids don't have places to go, and we're working on solving that issue. But one of those ways to solve that issue is for our teachers to offer independent studies and small group opportunities for the kids to learn. I've always done that. I will always continue to do that. I don't consider that part of my regular teaching schedule. I consider that just something you do because you're a good teacher. I currently teach wind ensemble every day. Our wind ensemble is an award-winning group. We travel. We compete. In my time here, I've never, if this is important to you, it's not particularly important to me because I don't think this is the emphasis, but the community should know, we've never received anything less than a silver. 90% of our medals are gold. We work hard, my kids work hard, the parents work hard, and my teachers work hard. The other class I teach this year, I took on a kindergarten class, which is not in my comfort level by any stretch of the imagination. I took it on because, as educators, we are all aware, the lower you go, the harder the job. It's infinitely difficult to teach kindergarten, and the people who do that are just remarkable educators, okay? At the high school level, when I get frustrated, or when one of the high school teachers is frustrated or has millions of things to do, you can say to the kid, hey, go clean my desk, and you're good to go. You can't do that at kindergarten. They have to be on task every minute. And if you look at the teachers in here, they're all smiling because they live in the dream. I took on that kindergarten class because it is the hardest bunch to do, and they needed something covered. So instead of taking the second grade, which would be far easier and in my comfort zone, I took the kindergarten to make it easier for my teachers. I did the same thing last year, and I will continue to do that as needed, whatever is needed. I have taught 3rd and 4th grade when that was needed to do so. I've taught, the only thing I haven't taught, I believe, is 2nd grade. You asked also what it is that I teach. Well, the most important thing I teach, and if you ask any of my kids, we all teach as a department to be kind, to be considerate, to be compassionate, to be respectful of other people, and to act with integrity. And I've said to them on many occasions, after that, if you can be a decent musician, then that's fabulous. And that's what we teach in every class. I would appreciate it as we move forward if there are questions about a teacher's classes or stipends or whatever, that you reach out to that teacher first and at least get their perspective of what's going on so that we can avoid this kind of an issue again. I appreciate your passion for what you're doing. I appreciate the work that you guys do. You're not compensated for that. I'm fully aware of that. But we're really working hard here to do the best we can for your kids. And we need you to help us too. And I gotta say, I've been proud to be a part of this school for the years that I've been here. I came here, I chose to come here, I didn't have to come here. I have been recruited by other districts, very often called to come and work for them as director. And I've stayed with Milford because I believe in our programs and I believe in our school system. And on Tuesday night, or that last Thursday night, it was the first moment where, for a moment, I was not very proud to be a part of the school system. I understand people make mistakes. I certainly have made my own mistakes. But how we go forward is really important. And I feel a responsibility to walk out of here with respect to my teachers, my parents, and my kids. And that's why I came here tonight. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadine. I know that could not have been easy. Any other interested party for invitation to speak? Yes, Mr. Serpine.
Kind of uncomfortable sitting and talking. I'm used to standing.
And we're not
I
holding
was
any
going to ask
instruments.
if I could pick this up and walk around. Thank you for the opportunity, and I'd like to thank all of the teachers of the Milford Public School Music Department, and as well as all teachers in the school system. I'm here as a parent, along with my wife Susan, of 2 children who came through this very fine school department all the way through. There's a man sitting right behind me who started my son Zachary on violin in the 3rd grade string program at Woodland. Thank you, Mr. Moffett. Zachary's now a senior at UMass, majoring in violin performance. And I heard from another one of your students today, Luke Krafka, who said anything he could do to help on this issue, because he wouldn't be in New York City right now playing full-time as a cellist if it wasn't for Mr. Moffett in that 3rd grade Woodland School string program. Thank you for your work, sir. As I said, my wife and I are parents. I'm a musician, founder of a professional symphony orchestra that has gained some reputation in our region. But most importantly, above all of that, I am a music teacher. I teach many, many students privately in many schools all year long. If I had a job suddenly making $200,000 a year conducting a major symphony orchestra, I would still be a teacher. Because being a teacher, I think, is the highest vocation a person could aspire to. I sent a letter to the school committee, so I'm not going to go through all of that again. And Mr. Quattrocchio, who I've enjoyed social occasions with and considered you a friend. And I would like to assume that your comments in the previous meetings were made in the best sense of as you saw your role. However, things that you said are out there and they float around in the universe. And it is incumbent upon people to make a response to these things. I'm glad to hear that you were able to work out the scheduling issue with the string program and the pullouts. I understand the issue with that as well. I started also in a 3rd grade music program some 45 years ago. I was pulled out of classes. I actually managed to graduate from school with high honors and went on to become a musician. It's the way we have done things, and when you eliminate that, then you're making it impossible for a great many young students to begin that journey into music. The thing is that was said that really disturbed me, and I was sitting here, I was one of the first people in this room tonight, and I was actually quite depressed to think that I'm sitting here because of why I'm sitting here. That something like that could be said, maybe just from an uninformed stance. So we must make response to these things. Music should never be considered, music study in your public school system should never, ever be considered some kind of fluff enrichment additive. It is one of the most important activities your students will ever embark upon. I teach, as I said, many, many students. When you put an instrument in a little kid's hand at that age in 3rd grade and start teaching them step by step to make sense of these bizarre marks on a page, a foreign language that I'm sure probably half of the people in this room could not make sense of, probably have as much luck reading Egyptian hieroglyphics right now. But these little kids are starting to decipher that. that is impacting abstract brain function. They have to start understanding concepts of melody and rhythm. I don't think it's any accident that one of the young men that was out in the hall playing strings as we came in was your high school valedictorian. One of the star cellists, star strings, star musicians, and made All-State this year, Mr. Peter Bai, and I know you all heard him recently. He's your valedictorian of this year's high school class. I know two students in Grafton, one of whom I taught for many years recently. She was vying for valedictorian of the Grafton High School class this year. She was running neck and neck. The other competitor was a fellow music student. On Tuesday night, I presented a year-end recital at the Rhode Island Philharmonic School of Music with my students that I teach there. One of my star students graduated that night, was very emotional. And by the way, she was the valedictorian of the Scituate High School class this year. This is no accident. And as far as I can understand, we are a scholastic institution. So it is important to think that if there's an activity that you can bring to every student in your school system that is going to enhance their abstract conceptual brain function and make them more successful in all of their other studies, and almost all of your music students in your system will probably rise to the upper 20 percentile in your graduating classes, that should be something you're not thinking this is enrichment. I'm not even sure what that actually means, but I guess it's some new politically correct term for things that aren't important or something. This is not enrichment. This should actually be almost required. I used to teach in a Waldorf school out in the Berkshires. They didn't actually ask if your child wanted to start playing an instrument. They just called you up and told you now was the time. And we have a fine clarinet teacher or a fine violin teacher, which one do you want? All of those kids really succeeded scholastically. And as far as Nadine Pomeroy's role as director of music, and you know, it is the privilege of the school committee to ask what your employees do, I'm sure. I can say as director of a music organization, it seems to me that only in the last 5 minutes of my life at a time do I actually play music. The rest of the many, many hours of my life running that organization are spent organizing things, getting people together, all the administrative things that no one else would do. You basically have a very wonderful and comprehensive music department in this school system. As Nadine said, she needs more people, not less people. And it can be all the much greater. But somebody has to be at the top of that. And that somebody has been Nadine Pomeroy for a number of years, and she's been doing a great job. And I know how frustrated she is sometimes, because I've had a lot of dealings with her, trying to help out, bring educational programs to her from Claflin Hill. I'm glad that you were able to resolve this issue, but I just wanted to make sure that somebody says that those things aren't so, because if you don't answer them, it floats out there, and the next time it's enunciated again and again, it becomes part of the human consciousness, like a lie. And then sometimes the lie becomes truth. And it is your role as a school committee to run a scholastic department. And that is what we want the most out of our students, to succeed scholastically. When they're engaged in an activity that only enhances that, I hope that you will all be behind that. Thank you very much, and thank you, Don.
Anyone else for invitation to speak?
1 minute, Mr. Chairman, start the clock.
Okay. It won't count, I promise.
And ladies and gentlemen, I know you have a long agenda tonight, and I appreciate your time. I'm Josh Nanestead. I'm the choral director at Milford High School, and I teach music at Brookside Elementary until today. Today was my last day in Milford Public Schools. I'm leaving I've accepted a university position in Oklahoma to help train the next generation of music teachers, something I've wanted to do for quite a while. And it's very bittersweet for me to be leaving, packing up 2 offices today and hugging people goodbye. It's been that kind of day. I have very little to say because my boss said almost everything. But I want to say this, just to put a positive spin on the end of our discussion tonight, and to help us relate to what's happening here. When I arrive in Oklahoma, in Texoma, right on the border of Oklahoma and Texas, one of the first things that I get to do when I move into my new house is I get to drive down the road to Dallas, and I get to go watch a performance of Les Mis conducted by one of our students, one of our graduates, down the road from my new house halfway across this country. Another one of our graduates just graduated as a tenor vocal performance major from New England Conservatory last month. To put that into context, and I think the musicians in this room will probably back me up on this, that would be like if we sent a starting running back to Alabama for the last 4 years. A tenor vocal performance major from New England Conservatory came through our program, all right? But our program is it's not just pre-professional training. Those things are fantastic. Those things are wonderful. I can't wait to see Les Mis conducted by Sinai. But 2 weeks ago at lunch, I was stopped by somebody I vaguely recognized in Subway, and she said, "Mr. Nanestead," I was impressed she recognized me because I didn't have a beard then. She said, "Is that you?" Yeah, that's me. Anna Arena stopped me, and she said, "Look, I was a member of the choir a decade ago. I saw that was you. I wanted to say hi." And I discovered that she's just finished her master's in nursing. She's now teaching at the collegiate level, and she stopped me to tell me what an effect chorus had on her life from that long ago. The music that we teach is not just about preparing new musicians, professional musicians, although there are some, and that's wonderful. But I teach kindergarten because we teach every kindergartner. When they get to 3rd grade and they get a chance to pick up an instrument or join a chorus, we want to support that in every possible way. Every person in town is better if they have music instruction. And my colleagues, on my last day of us being colleagues instead of former colleagues, work themselves. They work their fingers to the bone. They work their tails off. And so I would just ask the school committee going forward, we'd like to thank you for your support and try not to pull the rug out from underneath these wonderful teachers who are at it morning, noon, and night. And thank you for your time.
Last one more time here. Anyone else for invitation to speak? Seeing none. Thank you all for everyone who did speak. I know it's never easy to come and address a board and speak in public. I think it's right up there, either number 1 or number 2 most scary thing anybody can do in the world. So for somebody who does it every 2 weeks, it's not a comfortable thing the first time. So thank you guys thank you each and all of you for taking some time out of your busy lives outside of this and coming in and having the courage to step forward and share your thoughts. Thank you. We will move on to the next agenda item, which is the superintendent's executive summary, response to the Milford School Committee. You're up, Bob.
Thank you. Let me just say first how proud I am to be surrounded by such advocates for, and we've had advocates for foreign languages in the past for any number of programs. Music is particularly near and dear to me, as many of you know, and it's a terrific showing of support and to have you all here tonight. So I know that it's been a long day for the educators on the last day of school. Probably the last thing you'd want to do is be here today, and it sends a big message, and I thank you. I'm not going to read all 65 pages of my report, but I am going to take some time to review 8 of them, because I believe many of the issues that were raised in prior meetings, had I had an opportunity to respond to that, would have been addressed, and I'm glad that, you know, I'll get to those in succinctly. I'm not one to typically read off a script, but in order to keeping this moving along, I'm going to read just from what I've prepared. The school committee, at your seat, each of you have a copy of the packet. I provided copies to the media as well, and I can arrange to have this electronically, so if that's of interest to you, I'll provide that following this meeting. The items below in this, and I understand the members of the who are, the guests here don't have this in front of you, so I'll just try to. And some of these areas have been addressed already by Nadine and others. But the items below in my memo here to the committee are in response to concerns raised by Mr. Quattrocchio during the regular meeting of the Milford School Committee on May 15th, and then again on June 5th, the last meeting we had. And they're regarding 4 areas. The first of which is flexible scheduling for staff seeking coaching positions within the district. The second area is overall compliance with the Milford Public Schools Wellness Policy file. It should be file JL, not ADF. Physical education class size and student-teacher ratios. These are subsections of this. Frequency of physical education course participation for students. Physical education program supervision and certification status. Locker room supervision. Section 3, music program, the strings pull-out instructional model. And finally, number 4, director of music responsibilities.
Pages labeled 1 through 8, are these the executive summary and the rest is evidence of?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, pages 1 through 8 are the summary that I'm going through, and then the remainder is the evidence, the appendices.
Yeah.
First, the flexible scheduling, and I want this to be really very matter of fact. I'm not looking to engage in an argument and in a rebuttal in any way. I'm looking to simply address, and if there's a sense of miscommunication or failed communication, I work very hard at being a very good communicator. In my view, I work to over-communicate in some instances and keep the committee apprised in real time, actually, when events happen in our school, not the least of which have happened this week. So I take that as a very, something for me I take a lot of pride in is being a good communicator, and I work hard at that, and certainly there's room for improvement. However, I do want to make clear the points that were brought up at the last meeting. As was requested, this is with regard to the coaching positions, flexible scheduling. I'm glad to see the associations represented in the room tonight, Nick. Thank you. Nick's the new president of MTA. Congratulations. As was requested, I've spoken with Principal Nancy Angelini about the coaching assignments for the middle school athletics program, which had come up, and I know, Don, you had brought that up with Joe as well from the athletic subcommittee. The current middle school contractual hours would allow for the middle school teachers or coaches to be available for the duration of scheduled practices and games. I know that came up at the last meeting. Currently, the agreement between the Milford School Committee and the Milford Teachers Association does not provide for flexible scheduling, which would allow for the early release of staff members to assume coaching responsibilities while they're simultaneously being compensated for their contractual responsibilities as an educator, and to use the Seinfeld double dipping earlier. There exists, however, a long-standing practice where coaches may be allowed to leave before the end of their contractual day, but would be expected to make up the time on other days or before the start of a contractual day to offset that leave. The existing contractual language and defined school hours at each level, elementary and secondary, would technically preclude a teacher or coach from the elementary level to be on time for practices or games at the secondary level, for example, without some sort of special dispensation. This is a matter which may be of interest to the committee during interest-based bargaining set to begin next winter. So there's consistency and equity where flexible scheduling is offered. So I hope that answers your question, Don. I know you brought that up for the benefit of the committee. We'll do our best. In short, I know there's a matter of past practice where we've made those accommodations, and certainly we want our athletic programs to be as successful as our music programs. And so I know the principals have worked hard to do that. But again, there may be some cause for us to take that up at collective bargaining or interest-based bargaining, if that's an interest of the committee. Section number 2, overall compliance with the Milford Schools Wellness Policy File JL. In accordance with Massachusetts general laws and as stated in the Milford Public Schools Wellness Policy File JL, our school district supports wellness, good nutrition, and regular physical activity as part of the total learning environment. The Milford Public Schools embrace health and wellness as the foundation upon which all learning is built. In addition to the work taken up as a function of the Wellness Advisory Committee, Milford is an active participant in the Healthy Futures Milford Initiative, which is a collective community response to the epidemic of childhood obesity, and that was raised at the last meeting. This committee is comprised of the nursing director, food services director, myself, and various community members, including but not limited to Milford Regional Medical Center staff, the Hockomock Area YMCA, Blackstone Valley Regional Vocational Technical High School, and the Milford Family and Community Network meets monthly with the goal of promoting physical activity and healthy eating for our students and their families. In addition, the Milford Public Schools nursing director is a member of the Community Health Area Network Area 6, and Community Benefits Committee sponsored by Milford Regional Medical Center. Both of these committees deal with community health priorities with a focus on obesity prevention for youth and adolescents in Milford. I've also listed the health initiatives which the Milford Public Schools participates. This is beyond our physical education classes. Healthy Kids Week, Rethink Your Drink campaign, Nutrition Detectives program, Promoting Achievable Change program, Walk Boston, which is a walking map of Milford program to incentivize walking through the town. Before school activity programs at Woodland and Brookside Elementary Schools, sponsored by the Community School Use Program. Vending machine and school lunch changes to meet state and federal guidelines. Participation in mandated BMI screenings for grades 1, 4, 7, and 10. School garden greenhouse initiative. Dance program expansion. Active Schools Acceleration Grant. Fuel Up to Play 60 grant. School day games for the Special Olympics, and countless others that I've probably failed to include in this report. But in 2006, the federal government, through the Child Nutrition and WIC Reauthorization Act, began requiring school districts receiving federal funds for food service, such as the National School Lunch and School Breakfast programs, to adopt a wellness policy. The Milford Public Schools wellness policy, as defined in the policy amended by the Milford School Committee in 2013, includes the following members: the food services director, school administrator at the building level, school committee representative, school nursing director, health and physical education teacher, curriculum team leaders, school resource officers, parent representatives, student representatives, community representatives, and a school psychologist. Among the purposes of the Wellness Advisory Committee is to monitor the implementation of Policy File JL and to review or revise the policy as necessary. So my recommendation, as this was raised at the last meeting, and the STRING program, as I'll mention a little bit later here, as was mentioned, 40-plus years. That program, the wellness policy came together much later, and while it was looking to find ways to make sure we address health and wellness, did not consider at the time the impact on, or the nuance of pulling kids from physical education classes, as has been addressed. And there's been a lot of cooperation, obviously, throughout the years, and most recently in the last month and a half. So my recommendation, the recommended action on this topic. In consideration of physical education program requirement provided in the student wellness policy, which extends beyond the scope of Chapter 71, Section 3 of the Massachusetts General Laws, I recommend the Milford School Committee appoint a member to serve on the District Wellness Committee to replace a former member in order to, 1, be compliant with the Wellness Advisory Committee membership, 2, to reconcile policy language so that programs are not in competition with one another, and 3, to improve overall communication between the Wellness Advisory Committee, the Policy Subcommittee, the Milford School Committee, and the end users of this policy document. I would further recommend that all committees, whether school-based, subcommittees of the Milford School Committee, or otherwise, designate a minutes recorder and an agenda item at each meeting, vote on the record of the meeting as a matter of practice. Once approved, minutes should be distributed to the respective committee members and made available to the public on the district website. While some committees in the Milford schools do this consistently, many do not. This is an area where improvement is needed. And Don, I think this would help address the area you raised about communication. And I think that's one way to solve that, is my recommendation. Again, I list the appendices here so you can see that there are wellness, effective agendas, meeting minutes, and the policy itself for your inspection. With respect to physical education class size and student-teacher ratios, Section 1 of Article 12, Miscellaneous Working Conditions of the Contract Agreement between the Milford School Committee and the Milford Teachers Association provides that the committee states that it is goal to try to keep class size at or below an average of 24 students per regular classroom, is the qualifying language there, particularly at the elementary level. This is the language from the contract agreement. To this end, the committee will, subject to available funds and resources, make an effort to achieve such class size. The letter presented during the regular meeting of the Milford School Committee on June 5, 2014 by Mr. Quattrocchio was a letter prepared by David Chaplin, curriculum team leader for physical education at the secondary level, and signed by 7 physical education teachers, and presented to Principal Angelini to, quote, express the concerns of the 5th through 12th grade physical education staff of the Milford Public Schools regarding the recent reduction, at that time, reduction in force to the physical education staff at Stacy School, end quote. Letters provided to the Wellness Committee by Mr. Chaplin, and which were recently shared with the Milford School Committee, as his reports to the Wellness Committee, they were reports to the Wellness Committee, not of the Wellness Committee. It's an important distinction. Dave Chaplin's a member of a committee. He wasn't speaking on behalf of the entire committee. In relation to the reduction in force and the request for an additional physical education teacher at Stacy Middle School, the Milford School Committee was provided with each building's principal's budget request, in some cases, which includes new initiatives and personnel initiatives. So the committee did have that information available at our budget meetings. During the budget development cycle each year, building principals and department directors defend their budget proposals and prioritize the needs in their buildings. The Milford School Committee, often working on a directive from the Milford Finance Committee, considers the building administrator prioritizations, central office recommendations, and ultimately decides on their collective prioritization of budget elements, including personnel and other initiatives, as a matter of practice each budget cycle. As the committee will recall, and is provided in the appendix of my report, physical education staffing was not among the collective priorities in recent budget cycles. As was mentioned at a previous school committee meeting, physical education class size at Stacy Middle School does range from 26 to 38 students per class per teacher, with instructors often merging their classes together. Teaching assistants have, on occasion, been assigned to accompany classes in an effort to provide additional supervision. The teaching assistants, however, do not assume any teaching roles during physical education classes. The cost impact, as has been asked, to add a physical education teacher to Stacy Middle School is approximately $52,000. The prioritization of adding any positions to the fiscal 2015 budget is a matter that must be taken up by the Milford School Committee as a whole. Competing priorities identified by members of this board, consistent with the contract language around regular classroom enrollment averages at the elementary level, includes class size management at Memorial Elementary School and Brookside Elementary School, and something that continues to be monitored daily in light of summer enrollment trends. This is a prior discussion we had about numbers and the concern about the high numbers looking at in grades 1 and 2. In addition to physical education instruction, the Human Performance Laboratory, or Fitness Lab, at Stacy Middle School, which was mentioned, affords each student in grades 5, 6, and 7 an opportunity to use the lab and additional stations in circuit training for physical education, physical fitness, and a health unit titled Conditioned by Using Circuit Training, Cardiovascular Endurance. I've attached appendices relative to all of those topics that I covered. The frequency of physical education, Chapter 71, Section 3, states that physical education shall be taught as a required, this is the Mass General Law I'm referencing, shall be taught as a required subject in all grades for all students in the public schools for the purpose of promoting the physical well-being of students. Since we in Milford do provide physical education in all grades in the Milford schools, we are not violating Massachusetts general laws, as has been mentioned at the last meeting. Each year, the Milford Public Schools nursing staff collects height and weight measurements from students in grades 1, 4, 7, and 10. The information, converted into body mass index, BMI, is provided to the Director of Nursing for submission to the Massachusetts Department of Public Health. In 2014, there was a change in the reporting requirements. BMI letters were no longer sent home to families, as was previously required. Families had the choice to opt out of the BMI screening. Although BMI information is no longer provided to families, the data collected, excluding any opt-outs, is monitored regularly by the Healthy Futures and Wellness Committees and continues to be a major driver of health and wellness initiatives at the Milford Public Schools. In fact, BMI information is frequently used as the impetus for new programs with the YMCA and grant applications, all of which are aimed at improving the health and wellness of our children. BMI information from the last 4 years is included in this report as an appendix. Subsection C, Physical Education Program Supervision and Certification Status. Currently, all students, grades preschool through grade 12, are instructed primarily by an appropriately licensed and highly qualified physical education staff member. Teaching assistants have, as I mentioned earlier, in some instances been assigned to assist in physical education classes to help supervise and support physical education staff, but do not provide direct instruction. Locker room supervision. Concerns about the supervision in the physical education area at Stacy Middle School are addressed in the enclosed protocol. As provided in the protocol, staff members are expected to supervise locker rooms and address any inappropriate student behavior immediately, and that appendix has been included. Section 3, music program, strings pull-out instructional model. Just need to take a sip of water. The Milford Public Schools have a pull-out string program in place for more than 40 years, where students were pulled from all content areas. The practice of pulling students from core content instruction, as Nadine mentioned, ceased in 2006 because of Woodland's failure to make adequate yearly progress, AYP, on the MCAS assessment. In an effort to maintain the string program at Woodland, the Director of Music collaborated with other specialists, including physical education, to develop a schedule that would maintain all specialist programs so that one program would not compete with another. At that time, it was agreed that special subjects that met only one time per week, for example, art and library, would be excluded from any pull-out string instruction. It was determined by the then specialist staff and administrators that students enrolled in the string program would be pulled for instruction during one of the 2 scheduled music periods each week, and if necessary, pulled from one of the 2 scheduled physical education periods each week. Of the 128 students involved in the STRAIN program at Woodland during this past year, there were 43 students being pulled from physical education in grade 3 and 19 students being pulled from physical education in grade 4. As Dr. McIntyre reported at the June 5, 2014 meeting, the administration has been working to modify the schedule for the coming school year so that students would no longer be pulled from physical education classes at Woodland and instead only pulled from music classes in response to the concerns raised by the physical education department. Because of the cooperation between the departments, we've been able to achieve this goal. That's the point Mr. Quattrocchio made at the beginning of the meeting in the announcements, echoed again by Nadine, and we've been working on this for some time. It wasn't a last-minute effort. Finally, the Director of Music Responsibilities, section number 4. And again, this will repeat some of what's been said this evening, but nevertheless, I've been asked to comment on it. As part of the Director's stipend, the Director of Music is expected to regularly attend and assist with all performances district-wide. I've attached the 2013-2014 performance calendar for your information. The Director of Music has attended, performed at, or spoken at all but 2 of the events listed on the performance calendar. That's a 2-page document in like a size 9 font. As stated in Article 27, salary schedule of the contract agreement between the Milford School Committee and the Milford Teachers Association, directors shall, in consideration for teaching a maximum of 3 classes, K-12, during the regular workday and other duties outside the regular workday, receive $2,150 per year as a base. Each director shall receive an additional $80 for each teacher he or she must supervise. Currently, the Director of Music rehearses the Milford High School Wind Ensemble, teaches kindergarten general music at Memorial Elementary School, and has 2 independent study students currently studying performing arts management and 1 student intern. And just as a footnote, independent studies are largely incorporated into the schedule, as Nadine mentioned, in order to accommodate student interest that cannot be otherwise accommodated in a typical school schedule. The Visual Arts Curriculum Team Leader position, as was also mentioned, is a stipend and not a directorship. The job responsibilities of that position are provided on the attached appendix. And again, I list the appendices here. My final recommendation here is moving forward. I recommend revisiting the concept laid out in a prior plan of the Director of Fine and Performing Arts position, as is proposed in prior strategic plans and in the current strategic plan for the school committee during negotiations with the Milford Teachers Association during the next cycle of collaborative interest-based bargaining as a program streamlining and cost reduction effort. I know, Nadine, that you've been a tireless advocate for both the music program and the visual arts program. I've heard that from colleagues in both departments, and I thank you for your leadership there. I truly hope this report addresses the concerns raised during the June 5th, 2014 school committee meeting, and the committee understands that there is a tremendous thought and consideration of student health and wellness, staffing resources, programming options, and fiscal responsibility that accompanies what we do in our school district. And I truly hope that I've addressed all that I was asked to address this evening so that I don't fail as a communicator. It's very important to me. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman, on my report. I'll certainly entertain any questions, comments.
Any questions from the committee?
I'd like to make a comment.
Please.
First of all, I'd like to thank you, Bob, for the time that you put into putting all of this together. Obviously, this is a lot of work, a lot of research went into all of this, and a lot of things have been clarified tonight. Nadine, I had no idea, maybe others did, in terms of the history of strings at Woodland, in terms of the collaboration between all of the specialists. And the only way that anything is going to be accomplished in any school is by people collaborating and working together and then being supported and having the information communicated. I think there are a couple of things that we will continue to have to address as a committee. And I think that, as everyone has already stated, I think it's great that Woodland was able to put a schedule together that will accommodate our students having 2 phys ed classes and having music come out of music. That's going to work for now. But I think we have to remember that creating a school schedule is very complicated. Craig, you do an amazing job, and I do that same job, and I can relate to the complexities. Someone else does a schedule for me because I am no good at it. But, okay, well, we'll give Lisa the credit. So I think we have to remember that while this is a fix for now, we need to continue to look at our priorities, and our wellness policy being one of them. And we are well over in terms of what we are offering our students in terms of physical education based on what the law dictates. And I don't see us, unless I've missed it, dictating that we have 2 music periods a week, yet we have 2 music periods a week. The law does not dictate that we have 2 phys ed periods a week, yet we have 2 phys ed periods a week. And my guess is that's so teachers can have their contractual prep time. In the district where I work, we have 2 phys ed periods a week, and that's mainly so teachers can get the prep time that is owed to them in their contract so they can prepare the work they need to prepare for our students. I fully expected the music department or the phys ed department to say that in order for us to fix this problem, we would need either more music teachers, so thank you because you proved me right, or we would need more phys ed teachers because there are so many competing priorities, and we go back to what we expect of our kids today. We expect this incredible academic progress, and how can we take them out of a core academic subject and expect them to succeed in the way that the state and national guidelines are asking us? So I think we need to continue to look at some of the bigger pictures that were brought up. And Donna, I completely agree with you. Student health, student wellness, the obesity rates, the article that was in the paper, that doesn't bode well. But we also have to remember that public schools are not the answer to everything. Public schools can instruct, we can give our kids foundation, physical activity, encouraging that, building it, all of the things that are listed that the district's already doing. That's part of it. But we can't hang our hats on 2 phys ed periods a week because as important as wellness and health and physical education is, it's not the answer to everything. So I just think we need to bear that in mind moving forward with all of our priorities because we have a 6 in whatever minute-hour school day. We can't fit everything in, yet I see us trying to do so many things, and we do have a music program that we can be so proud of. And likewise, we have athletic programs that we can be so proud of and growth of our athletic programs. So I think there are many, many things that we need to consider moving forward, and appreciating that we have a resolution to this at this time. I just want to caution people that this may not be a forever answer, and we'll need to continue to look at that.
Thanks, Jen. Mike?
Bob, as I expected, great job.
Thanks.
Really great job. I knew you'd give us a good, comprehensive report. I'd like to speak personally about the arts and the music program. The first year that I got elected, I got a call from the superintendent of schools, and he asked me would I attend the National Art Honor Society. And I said, well, what's that? Isn't that the same as the National Honor Society? And he said to me, no. He said, this is different. This is art. And I was blown away. I'd never seen anything like it in my life. And I think Bob wanted me to go because he wanted me to see what these children really were capable of. And I still remember he went into his office and he took a frame down a picture off of his wall. The picture's pie in the sky. I still remember it. And he went and he spoke to those kids, and at the end he held up his picture and he said, what's yours, pie in the sky? But what I came out of that meeting with that night was that every single one of us is different. Every one of us shows different kinds of talent. And every year I've made a conscious effort to go to that show to look at what those children do. I feel the same way about music. Again, I go back to the first year that I was on the committee, senior week, sitting next to the superintendent of schools, and he keeps saying to me, he's holding the program, he's going, wait till you see this kid. Wait till you see this kid. And I'm like, well, out he came, and it was a shock to Mr. Walsh. He did a Billy Joel performance and got a standing ovation. He was phenomenal. And every year I go, senior night is the highlight of the music program to me. Last year I attended the Woodland School for something, Bob. You and I were there, and the string, the quartet was playing. And I looked and I said to myself, these are 3rd and 4th graders? This is unbelievable. But at senior night, when we allow the children or the young adults just be themselves, every year, if you go to that and you're not touched and you don't think there's talent in the Milford Public Schools, there's something wrong. And I'm going to use this year, because Mr. Walsh, as far as I'm concerned, the only musician in the world is Frank Sinatra. And he showed up this year. He showed up. But, you know, this year in particular, at the very end of the performance, or almost at the end of the performance, where the 4 young adults got together on stage and they had the microphones in 4 different areas, and each one of them had a performance. And if you didn't have tears in your eyes when that young lady sang to her mother, whew, you know. But every single one of them, has such a talent. And even Frank Sinatra did a great job, you know. But I guess what makes me so proud, and I'm going to use again this year, standing on the end of my street on Memorial Day, when the Milford High School, and I believe it's the middle school marching band comes down East Main Street, and they're playing for the people of the town of Milford. If that doesn't make you proud, there's something wrong, because it's an absolutely phenomenal thing to watch. So I take my hat off to the music program. I take my hat off to the arts program. I take my hat off to people like Tommy. And Bob will tell you, you've heard me say hundreds and hundreds of times, if you question the Milford Public Schools, you've never been in the Milford Public Schools. And I have, and I watch these performances. I'm going to go back to the Memorial Day celebration at Stacy Middle School. If you weren't moved by that band and that chorus, the way they performed, and it's all right here in the Milford Public Schools. And we need to work together, we need to support it together, and keep it going, and only make it better. Because as Paul said, when you look around, it's just phenomenal what they can do. So let's encourage, let's not discourage, and keep everything going. Thank you. Great job.
Any other members?
I do have something to say, actually. An earlier speaker said that Mr. Moffett came, and I was looking around for him, and I couldn't find him in the room. I didn't realize we had the same haircut now.
Patrick, it's contagious from our year.
Apparently. So, you know, I just wanted to say, you know, Mr. Moffett taught me how to play cello when I was in elementary school, and I should never quit, and I'm sorry that I did. And I believe I saw Mr. Crowley here, who taught me how to play trombone. And you know, everyone should know here that there's a lot of support for the music department on this committee, and that we'll be stewards for the program, and that we won't make any foolish decisions about what we should or shouldn't do with the music program. And every member, all 7 members, deliberate fully with one another in public about some of these programs. And so please trust that we have the music program in its best interest in mind.
Any other members? All right. Thank you, Bob, for a very comprehensive report. Appreciate you know, certainly all the work that you know, put into this, and hopefully I believe it does address all the questions and issues. It satisfies me with the questions that were asked. As one member, you know, certainly leave it up to the members if they have any other questions with regards to what was addressed. Okay. And then again, I think it's been said multiple times. You know, certainly this committee has been a tremendous supporter of really just, as I said, as my first night as chair, which is that what I believe to be the educational experience of our students, and physical contests on the athletic fields plays a role in that. Music plays a role in that. Art plays a role in that. Theater arts plays a role in that. It's one of my priorities as chair this year. As a lifelong musician, somebody who's been involved in music at all levels from the age of 4, and I'm now a few years past that. You know, I've seen firsthand and experienced it as an individual, as well as a parent of 2 children who have been actively involved in every program in this school, including the strings program. As well as just a community member, and being able to watch and observe and seeing so many music groups continue to perform. You know, as I'm sitting here, Mr. Crowley, and for better or worse, is standing directly in my line of vision here, and the only person I can actually see playing saxophone in my mind, other than him, is actually Jason Samiaggio, who's standing directly behind him. And I was standing at I was sitting at the 8th grade graduation today, and I was sitting next to Dr. McIntyre and sat next to Dr. McIntyre, and I said, "That's Jason Samiaggio. He took over Mr. Crowley's job. His son-in-law is Joe Marias." He said, "Oh, okay, got it." I said, "Welcome to Milford." So, certainly, you know that, and hopefully it's become abundantly clear. You know, this board certainly takes its job very seriously. Takes its job as the financial, the lack of financial gurus, and quite frankly, the financial the financial direction that we have to take, given the confines of understanding that that we're spending taxpayer money and not just our own. We can't just sell more stock and raise more money. It doesn't work that way when you're working in the public sector, as you all are well aware. We take this job very seriously when it comes to not only the policies and procedures that are passed, but the enforcement and making sure that not only are we aware of them, that we're continuing to follow our own rules, and that when we see something, when something's brought to our attention, as has been the case with each policy subcommittee. I had the pleasure of being able to serve on that subcommittee for the last 2 years. Actually, one of the first things I asked when I had an opportunity to join that committee was, it was actually a question I'd asked you, Bob, at my first meeting after, at that time, the chairman, Patrick Holland, had appointed me to it, was, "Bob, can you go and work with the teachers and ask them what policies are getting in their way so that we can try and address those first?" So I can tell you that this is something that this body and that this board continues to take very seriously. Each subcommittee and policy subcommittee has taken that very seriously. They met again this evening, and I know you have an update for us a little bit later in the agenda. This is as somebody who's been involved in education in all facets of my life, including, as I've stated on a number of occasions, having 2 parents who are retired Milford school teachers, one more retired than the other. This is a full-time job, and you know, I want to make sure that I, you know, restate that again this evening, that this board does take their job very seriously, and we appreciate the job and the people that we represent, and the 4,000 plus students, and the hundreds of staff members, and the thousands of community members, and the taxpayers in the town of Milford. So thank you all for your continued support, because that's who's here tonight. So thank you, guys. We appreciate that. We appreciate you attending, and know that we'll continue to take our job very seriously. You are the reason why we are here. So thank you. That being said, we will move on to our next agenda item. We couldn't come up with anything better we could call this. We'll move on. Disciplinary action against the superintendent of schools as an agenda item. So we'll move on to that. This was a piece, obviously, that from a conversation, and it was an opportunity for discussion. So I'll open it up to members. Don.
I'm going to grab my iPad over there. There's a PowerPoint on there. And the lights go out and all that. So you can just unplug it. I'm just going to take it over there so I have my notes. But first of all, Nadine, thank you very much. Not only do I appreciate the background that you gave us, I really appreciate how classy you were in doing it. I really appreciate that. Thank you. You know, I said from the beginning that this was really about communication and accountability. I mentioned that in the beginning of last week's meeting. And I apologize, I'm actually going to refer to some notes here. So if I'm looking down, it's just that I want to make sure I cover all my points. And before I kick it off, too, I really want to get the message across to Bob that, you know, in the very beginning, or at the end, I should say, of my speech last week, again, I made the comment about I might make the suggestion of suspending you. So in the conversation that I had with Mr. Moody, legal counsel from Milford this week, again, he explained to me, and I know I said this in the beginning of the meeting, that that probably wasn't warranted. So again, publicly, I'll pull that back. So that's really not the disciplinary action that I'm looking for here. But I would ask you to just keep an open mind as to the points that I'm talking about. It's not about eliminating programs. It's all about communicating with us in a timely manner, educating us You know, again, Nadine, that was an awesome background. That's what I've been looking for the last few weeks, or well over a month now. But so I appreciate that. And when we're asking for information, if it could be delivered to us in a timely manner, maybe we could avoid things escalating to the point that they do. But if we can do that, Bob, again, my goal here is, and the goal I think of all of us, is to make you the best superintendent possible for our town, because that's the benefit for all of us, especially the kids. So, you know, just take it as a learning experience, and if we can make these changes, then it's great for everybody. So, you know, the 4 points that I was trying to make were around the policy violation, the need for a phys ed teacher, the schedule the strings program, and communication improvements, right? And I did talk about the policies that were being violated, and it was the student wellness policy, as Bob just mentioned, that was in violation, where it was 2 40-minute sessions, okay? I had some question as to whether or not teachers could, or assistants could participate in teaching a gym class at Stacy, because they would bring in teacher assistants in there to try to buffer the safety issues. Jen, you made a great comment. I don't know if it was last meeting or the meeting before, where if they're not actually teaching the class, that might be okay. Again, I'm trying to educate myself when I'm asking these questions so I can get a full understanding of what's needed in this district. And then the other piece was the violation of the school committee superintendent relationship, which is the fact that we need to be informed so that way we can inform the public in a timely manner, right? So those were the policies that I was talking about. And then, you know, and I noticed that it was funny that you had recommended this too. One of my points to this, and my suggestion, was going to be adding a school committee to the wellness, you know, policy or meeting or group, because in the wellness policy it does say that a member should be the school committee. So I'm happy that you found that. I think that would go a long way to keeping us well communicated and informed with. So I'm really thrilled that you pulled that out. The reason why I was asking for the phys ed teacher at Stacy was because, again, I did find the numbers alarming. David Chaplin made a great case as far as safety concerns. And I don't think anybody's arguing that we need this position for our children. And then part of my support of that positioning was the BMI report. Now, this BMI report came out, I believe, before March. And in the last 2 meetings, I've asked for a copy of it, and it wasn't delivered, right? I mean, it's here today. Everybody can have access to it. And, you know, I was a little disappointed that the Milford Daily News was able to do a report, grab access to that prior to it being sent to me, even though I've asked for it twice. So, again, it's all about being informed, but the BMI reports were alarming to me. And the fact that since 2000, when they put this policy in place in 2006, 2007, they stated that the BMI had increased 3 times from 1980 to 2000. And again, this was put together in 2006, 2007. What alarmed me was, you know, one of those groups, you know, the BMI increased, I think it was like 15% in one of the groups. And that's just in a 2-year period from 2012 to now. So to me, it would hurt all of us if we didn't focus on fixing all the issues, right? And so that's why I brought up that point. I already told you about Craig fixing the strings program, the schedule. Really thrilled about that. Again, I want to thank Diane Pinto for bringing it to Craig's attention and making sure that that was fixed for next year. You know, the point about the director position and the questions that I was asking, and I apologize to you because I can imagine the anxiety that it must have caused you. And in fairness to you, that's not what I was trying to do. So everybody knows, as a school committee member, we have absolutely no powers to hire or fire anybody. I can honestly tell you, everything I've ever heard about you and your program is wonderful and fantastic, and I'd be crazy to ask, to eliminate those funds. I'm not trying to accomplish that. And the question about the stipends and stuff like that, again, I wasn't questioning your work ethics or your value. I applaud you for the work that you do. What I was trying to get an understanding for and just trying to get an education on were the independent study pieces. Because, as you pointed out, I guess your agreement might say that you can teach a maximum of 3. I was looking at it, the wording where it said, shall be in consideration for teaching 3 classes. Could it be possible that you could teach another class next year instead of an independent study? And let me explain why. Because we're losing the .4 teacher, and we need to fill those classes. And to your point, you want to add .6 on top of that. And I'm trying to fill a gym teacher. So this was a budgeting question. So I can understand if I could free up some of those allocations, those fund allocations, and help me identify funds for the phys ed requirement that I'm asking for. Because at the end of the day, we already approved the budget, and there's a good chance I'm going to have to go to, or we're going to have to go as a collective body to the Finance Committee and build a business case as to why we need additional funds for next year to support that phys ed teacher. Now, what I heard tonight is you're asking for .6. So here's what I promise you, that I'll be more than glad to fight for the .6 as well as the gym teacher, all right? Because again, I'm not trying to crush a program here, folks. I'm trying to do the best thing for the town and the students. And I hear, I love the passion, I love the requests, and it's times like this when we hear from you that we can understand the true needs, right? When we go into our annual budget conversations, it's a summary, all right? The last 2 years that I've been there, the principals weren't in that meeting, and you certainly weren't in that meeting, and maybe the requests weren't voiced as strongly as they should have been, or a case built strong enough for us to fight for those funds in those positions. So, and that's what I've learned through this whole experience, is that it's documented over a 2-year period for the gym piece that they were begging for an additional resource. And I didn't feel like that was clearly articulated to myself and or the school committee at budget request time. And again, I have no problem going to fight that fight for additional money, especially when you can see the passion, you can see the impact on the school, and it's a positive thing. And if it's a positive thing, we should all be working to try to get you what you need, okay? But we can only do that if we know about it and if we're educated. And that's, again, that's my point. So my suggestion was, again, have you cover an additional class. It would be appreciated. It helps free up some of those funds that we're going to go have and ask for. If there's somebody else that could fill in for an independent study that's qualified, that would be great. If you're teaching another class, it's being taught by the best from what I can gather right now. So I think that would be great. But again, I don't make those decisions. This was just a suggestion that I was making to the administration to try to deal with the budget requests for the phys ed teacher. And again, I'll be more than glad to, if I'm going to ask for that, I might as well ask for the .6, right? So I promise you I'll incorporate that.
May I respond to that? Is that not appropriate?
Jerry, I'm going to defer to you.
Well, I prefer you're the chairman, so you can decide when you want to let him.
Nadine, because you're a faculty member, yeah, we're not going to reopen the invitation to speak. However, as an employee of the school and the subject matter expert, if you'd please come up to the microphone and respond, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
I'd be very happy, Mr. Quattrocchio, and any member of the department, if you want to, as a committee, if you want to call me and I can discuss our concerns and at least make you aware of why we do some of the things that we do, then you'll know, and then you can make a more informed decision about the direction to go. But what you're not aware of when you look at my schedule is that I also go out and I help him with the string instruction, because we need that. You know what I mean? There are things in that aren't articulated in that there are just too many things to put in there that you wouldn't be aware if you looked at the schedule.
I appreciate it,
Yeah,
and I absolutely will. And again, for us to make decisions, I hope we're making educated decisions. And the more information we can gather, the more educated we can be, and the better our decision making can be. So, again, thank you very much. I'll definitely take you up on that. So, I'm just going to address this, and again, I'm just doing this so everybody can understand why I was so passionate about adding this resource at Stacy, but also get an understanding of why I was kind of, upset that I wasn't educated in this process. So, yes, I've asked for the BMI information. I asked for this report 2 weeks ago, and then I asked for it 3 weeks prior to that, and I'm happy that it's finally here. But in the back of this packet, because I asked for it in the beginning of the week, I said, what, I'd like to see the meeting notes from all the wellness committee meetings over the last 3 years, okay? And like Bob said, this is a massive document, so I just highlighted some, but I want to point out the dates so you can understand how far this goes back and how I might be upset that it wasn't brought to our attention with the urgency that it should have been, all right? So March 5th of this year, the main topic was the BMI results for our district being very concerning. So that tells me as a school committee member, that report was out before March 5th. And here we are, last day of school, right? And we just got this information, and like I said, Milford Daily News got it prior. On January 22nd of this year was when Diane Pinto pointed out that there were 75 Woodland students being pulled out of phys ed for the weekly participation in strings, and that we were in violation of a policy. On October 28th of 2013, the CTLs expressed concerns about decreasing staff in phys ed at Stacy and focused on the safety concerns in that letter, or in that report. On June 4th of 2013, expressed the concerns about the reduction of the PE staff at Stacy, and that was also what I mentioned in the last year's end of report, which I talked to at the last school committee. On March 20th, 2013, the wellness policy appointed by the school committee there was a suggestion made by the school committee for the wellness policy in March 20th, 2013, in which the school committee's suggestion was suggestion made for next revision to increase PE times. So in 2013, school committee is asking the wellness committee to increase time. And what I heard from Dr. McIntyre at the last meeting was that they would consider changing the policy to reduce time to allow for the strings policy if they wanted to. And that's why, again, I probably took it to where I did. So I'm hoping that if we add these resources, that not only can we keep the strings program alive and get it to where you want it to be, Nadine, but we can get our phys ed numbers where we wanted to last year as a school committee, and we make it a safer environment for our kids, and we can add programs at the Stacy. Imagine a kid who goes there for an orientation, he sees that cool rock wall, and then he goes into Stacy, and he's told he's not allowed to use it because we don't have the resources to supervise it. And it's going to be pretty crushing. So on October 16th, 2012, Bob was to see if a retired certified PE teacher could be used in a stipend position to help out with that. In June 11th, 2012, Dave Chaplin read a letter, expressed concern about the elimination of the PE teacher, and in June 7th of 2012 was the letter that he wrote to Nancy concerned about the reduction of the staff and requested a position to be reinstated. So again, my whole point was this 2 years history here of asking for additional resources to comply with our policies, to make sure that we have a safe environment and to support our PE position. And again, I'll be more than glad to add your requests tonight. I wanted to thank tonight the Milford Daily News, the Patch, and the Town Crier for actually reporting and articulating what I would consider a good recap of the last couple of meetings. Okay, and Paul, to your point tonight, I totally agree with you. How if only things are said, and the entire story isn't told, that it can become snippets, and all of a sudden it becomes lies or viewed as lies. And I'll tell you something: when WMRC reports rumors, only talks about the end of the story and not the entire thing, doesn't highlight my points, didn't even have the decency to mention one point that I was trying to make before I made my suggestion to Bob, is pretty sad for all of us. So my only request to them would be to be like the former Paul Harvey. Tell the rest of the story, right? And maybe we wouldn't have to escalate to this point. So again, I want to thank all of you for the letters, your passion. I hope it came across. I'm not trying to kill the program. It's the last thing I want to do. Bob, I hope that what I'm trying to accomplish here is just make you a better communicator and allow us to make better decisions. Okay. I had asked for a suspension. What Jerry said, what would be more appropriate is just a letter explaining the need to increase communication to be filed, so it's on record. So that's what I would like to request. And then, obviously you said we can talk about it during your annual appraisal and stuff like that. But I'll tell you in public, despite, when MRC says that I have a hidden agenda to eliminate our superintendent, I find that pretty offensive. And again, it's a political game. And the political game is when somebody is under heat, you create a bigger fire. I've been through it. This isn't my first time at this rodeo. So I know how the politics work. So I'm here to say to you publicly that, again, my hope is that you come out of this just knowing that you have to communicate to us in a timely manner to help us make better decisions to support you and the district and the kids. Because if we can do that, then again, it is a big win for everybody in this community. And I hope that's the end of it. So I appreciate it. And thank you all very much.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Walsh.
I'd like to publicly go on record that I am 100% against putting anything in Dr. Trembley's file as one school committee member. Let me just say, Bob, I'm going to say this to you because it's very important to me tonight that you walk out of this room and you keep your head up high because you do one hell of a job. Excuse my language on TV. This is a company-issued phone. 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, this phone has to be on me. At 11:30 at night, it's gone, and I'm like, oh, what's going on? What's happening at the dealerships? It's the superintendent of schools sending out emails, things that happen during the daytime. I'll be in a meeting at work, and it's going off, and I say, what's going on? And I look. It's the superintendent of schools telling us that a bus was involved in an accident on the way to school. How much more can you communicate? I've gotten emails from you from 2 o'clock in the morning. How much more can you do? But I think the real key was, and I had this conversation with him, I watched Bob take and move Craig to the Woodland School. I said, that's rather an interesting move. Here's a guy that was at the 8th grade level going down to a lower level. And then I attended the school in October for some function, and I heard all the kids calling Mr. Consigli Daniel Boone. So I was like, Daniel Boone? Why is everybody calling him? Well, he actually gets dressed up in costumes, I find out. And I said to myself, what a great move. What a great move. And then when he named Carrie to the high school, I got a phone call an hour later and said, you won't believe it. She absolutely got a standing ovation at the high school breakfast. I said, you're kidding me. He said, no. I called Bob that afternoon and I said, as a manager, One of the hardest jobs you have is to not only surround yourself with people that share the same philosophy you do, that want to pull the boat in the same direction. And I said, congratulations, because you've done it. You've surrounded yourself with the best, with the brightest, and with people that truly believe in where you want to take the Milford Public Schools. But not only does he have the unique ability to do that, he has the unique ability to connect with everybody, the children. 2 years ago, I believe it was, I was sitting at the middle school graduation, sitting on stage, like me, and I saw Bob come in, and he had a suit on, and he had a red shirt with no tie, and I was like, that's kind of different. But, you know, and I couldn't see it. He had a sport jacket button, and he got up on stage, and he sat next to me, and we talked, and then they called on Bob to go up to the podium. And with that, he whips off his suit jacket, and it's the red T-shirt that all the kids had worn in Washington, D.C. And the place went absolutely out of control. He could connect. He can connect from the kindergarten level all the way to the high school level. And that's an amazing feat, an amazing feat. And now he's gone on to get his doctorate. Not only personally for himself, he's gone on to get his doctorate to make our district a better district. So I sit here tonight and I say I am dead set against anything going in his file, any kind of action against him, because in my opinion, he does a fantastic job, and he can only move this district farther forward.
Thank you, Mike. Any other members? Don?
Again, this, I guess, is where, you know, in a public forum, it's good to get conversations going, so I appreciate your opinion, and this is probably where we have to agree to disagree. The point that I'm trying to make is that the student wellness policy was violated. And in my opinion, the school committee and superintendent policy, you know, that one might be a little bit fuzzy as to, you know, whether it was completely violated or not. But the other one, it's pretty clear to me that it was violated. Nobody can deny that 75 kids weren't getting 2 40-minute sessions as stated in the policy. So my whole thing is, before you decide, or somebody wants to second, or whatever it might be, I just want to be clear that, and I appreciate the passion here, but we're here to see that our policies are followed. I think I've done a good job showing that one of them was clearly not followed. So to not reprimand at all, and I'm open to other suggestions if somebody wants to make another suggestion, but to not do something, I think sends a bad message throughout the district. What does that say to the administration that has to follow policies, the teachers that have to follow policies, and the students that have to follow policies? So in my opinion, it's not like I want to do this. I feel that there was a violation, and something should be done to make a clear message throughout the entire district that if a policy isn't followed, that there are some ramifications for that. So, again, this is not a personal thing on Bob. Bob showed us that incredible binder. I didn't even know they made binders that big at the last school committee session of everything that he's accomplished. You know, and the last thing I want to do is take away from all of his accomplishments. And I don't want to take away from the accomplishments of the teachers in this district, the students of this district, the administration, or even this committee, because we all work hard, and the whole goal is to make sure we have a great district.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we table any further discussion on item number 7, disciplinary action against the superintendent of schools.
I don't second, but I would comment that to my point earlier, any disciplinary action that should be taken up in executive session.
Agreed.
And this motion, in my opinion, shouldn't be seconded.
Yep.
It should be, I won't say what someone should do with their own motion, but this is a matter that I believe would be taken up most appropriately in executive session.
Agreed.
I agree.
Any additional conversation that we'll have with regards to proposed disciplinary action, this is an opportunity to share some, as it needed to be an agenda item, we would put this on the next agenda item, the next agenda.
If you are gonna do an executive session, you have to give the person an issue 48 hours notice.
Absolutely, so it won't be in this evening's, no, correct, it will not be in tonight's executive session.
48 hours notice.
Absolutely, thank you, Jerry. It would not be in this evening's executive session. This would be with regards to, this will be in a future school committee meeting for an executive session discussion to allow for the protection of Bob's rights as well as an open conversation in accordance with contract requirements.
Do we not need to, excuse me for my ignorance, but do we not need to take a vote to continue this in executive session, or?
No, this is, it becomes
Because
an
it's
agenda.
already on here?
It becomes an agenda item as part of an executive session. Just as any other executive session item would go in, it's actually something that's designed when the agenda is put together by the chair.
The time to vote on that agenda is
Yep.
before we go into it.
Would
We
be
do a
going
roll
into
call.
it.
So if you don't agree on your executive session, you'd say no.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So with that being said, we will move on to the next agenda item, which is the Massachusetts Association of School Committee presentation.
Is he still here?
I think he left.
Hmm?
I think he left.
No, he's in the other room. You're on.
Welcome.
Welcome.
We apologize.
Apologize for the, apologize for the delay. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you for your patience.
So Joe, I know that this is something that you had put together, so I'll let you, if you want to sort of introduce our two guests this evening, and I'll let you two come and talk to us.
Sure, that'd be great. So I've been having some conversations with Mr. Kuchar, and I'll let him introduce his colleague as well later on. But we belong to their organization, the Massachusetts Association of School Committees, and they provide a number of valuable services that we can certainly benefit from, whether it be professional development courses, policy support, legislative advocacy. There's just a wealth of information and a wealth of resources that are available to us through this organization. And obviously we just went through a learning opportunity over the past couple of weeks with some of the issues and challenges that we just discussed. And I think they're a resource that can certainly help us navigate some of these challenges and really develop our skills so that we can be a much more effective and cohesive school committee. So I asked them to come out and talk a little bit about some of the courses that they have to offer. I also asked them to talk a little bit about the self-evaluation process as well. I know they have a tool that and a template that they've created that many communities throughout the state of Massachusetts are currently leveraging. And there's a lot of benefits to going through that exercise. So I asked them to talk a little bit about that. And then just give us a general overview of your organization.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Glenn Kuchar, the Executive Director of MASC. With me is Dorothy Presser, who is our Field Director for Central Massachusetts and for District Governance Training. I know that it's late and you have other people on the agenda, so I'll let you guide us in terms of time. We'll be respectful of that, certainly. As you know, MASC provides our membership with a lot of different services. Among them are telephone access, professional development, consulting, legal services. We have an annual state conference. We do division meetings and trainings. We are the new member orientation group for many of you who have been through new member orientation. We have another one on Saturday in Braintree if you're a new member and you haven't been there.
The lunch is usually very good. Glenn, I just want to compliment you on that. The lunch is usually very good.
I was just there, it was excellent.
And we provide extensive professional development for school committee members. I'm going to turn it over to Dorothy to talk about what a lot of those programs are, and we have some information for you. I do want to say, however, that so that you know, there are 4 places in Boston where a live person answers the telephone: the police department, the fire department, the Ethics Commission, and MASC. And for those of you who go to our website, our telephone numbers, our contact information is there for you. As you know, our members meet at night. My phone number doesn't ring as often as yours does, Mr. Superintendent, but it comes at any time, and please don't hesitate to talk to us. We did develop a program in collaboration with the funding from Race to the Top called the District Governance Support Project, which we use to provide training for school committees specifically targeted to helping you do your work on behalf of students. Dorothy actually is the godmother of that program and created a good part of the content, which this year was the winner of the National School Boards Association Award for Best Member Service program in the United States, so we're very proud of that. So I'm going to let Dorothy Presser talk to you about the kinds of services and training that we can provide, and then later we can respond to any questions you may have about any element of our work.
Thank you, Glenn, and thank you for having us here tonight. We have a packet of information for you that I'll leave, which has some information about the various services and training that we offer. But I want to talk a little bit specifically about the District Governance Support Program. This was something that, as Glenn said, we developed over the last several years using some Race to the Top funds. And it's a research-based program. We used research that had been done on what were the practices of effective school committees around student achievement. And so using that research, we developed a series of 5 workshops that hit those best practices and help school committees learn what they are and sort of embed those practices in the work that they do. We use the analogy or the metaphor of building your governance schoolhouse as sort of a way to remember what the different elements are. So we start with the first workshop is building the foundation, which is talking about operating protocols. It's developing the governance team, with the superintendent and the school committee talking about working together. In a lot of ways, it's talking about how you're going to work together so you can get to the what of the work that needs to be done on behalf of students. So we try to engage the committees that participate in conversations around all those gray areas that happen that aren't well defined in law but always come up, so that there's just some conversation about how are we going to handle those gray areas so that they don't become barriers. You can talk about them before they happen, and then you can get to the what of the work that you do on behalf of students. After that, we talk about goals, goal setting, and what is your vision that you have for the schools, the school committee as representing the community, the superintendent as knowing sort of the guts of what's going on in the building and what needs to happen. Bringing that together to develop some goals that will allow you to really articulate what your vision is for your schools and for your students. Then we talk about monitoring progress towards those goals. How are you going to bring that vision down to what we SMART goals? You're probably familiar with that acronym. How can we bring that down to what are you going to accomplish now, this year, this school year, to bring you closer and closer to that vision that you have for your students? And then we talk about, we fold into that, particularly at this time, the new model for superintendent evaluation, which a lot of us aren't all that familiar with, maybe only having been through it a couple times. How can you tie your district goals and your superintendent goals and your school improvement plan goals all together to have a well-articulated plan? We talk about how to have an effective meeting. How can you structure your meetings? How can you structure an agenda throughout the year to make sure that you're constantly monitoring the progress on your goals and accomplishing what you want to accomplish? And then we end with talking about, now that you've have these practices, how can you sustain them through time? How can you sustain them through changes on the committee that happen over time, or changes in the superintendency that happen over time? And then, you know, we're always there to support you beyond, you know, the sessions. We have developed another workshop that we've sort of been calling Tune Up and Tool Up, to have after your reorganization meeting, where you can just come back and review some of the practices and get ready for the year ahead. This is a member service that we offer. We offer these workshops at no additional charge. They're part of what you have for your membership.
Just a question on that. So would you come to the school here and provide the workshop
yes.
here on site?
We do it at the convenience of the school committee. This is one school committee working together. It's not like charting the course or some of the other professional development we offer, where we set a time and the people who go. This is us coming to your committee at the time, you know, that whether we do it on Saturdays, we do it on, you know, weeknights, whenever the committee chooses to get together to be able to do the work.
And what have you found is most effective, having coming in and doing one of the programs, or coming in and doing 3 or 4 of the programs and banging it all out in one day? What do you typically?
Typically, each program has a work product that we ask you to work on. Typically the way it seems to work best is to do one about once a month or once every 6 weeks to get through the program. If you start at the right time, it sort of ties things to particular times during your year. You know, right now, if you're talking about operating protocols and goal setting, getting ready for the year ahead, and then talking about some of the other things, maybe a budget setting time, then that can be helpful.
There are some workshops that we provide that are standalone as well. Oftentimes the school committee will call us and ask us for a workshop on collective bargaining, focusing on student achievement strategies, self-assessment, effective meetings, public issue updates. I spent some quality time this afternoon with the Commissioner of Education talking about Park versus Common Core, superintendent evaluation, open meeting law, state ethics requirements, budget, finance, and fiduciary responsibilities. Those are some of the things that districts ask us to come in and do.
Okay, that's great.
Any other members?
One of the things in your packet is a new handout that's got a summary of a lot of the issues that school committees have brought to our attention. So you can review that. But, all kinds of different issues that emerge that become critical issues for school committees, some of the esoteric questions, some of the more frequently asked questions, and they're summarized in this packet that you may find helpful. When we do general workshops with school committees on roles and responsibilities, oftentimes people will ask a question, for example, where there's a principal vacancy in the school district and school committee member would like to be a member of the search committee. What are our rights in that regard? What is the school committee's role regarding Park versus Common Core? Where does the line, where does the blue of the superintendent's administrative responsibility and the yellow of the school committee's area of responsibility blur and become green? I used to say when black and white become gray, but I got a lecture in Amherst about that, so I'm very careful about that. And we're very politically correct. When blue and yellow become green. And answer a lot of the questions that are difficult but sometimes create debate and discussion. And also strategies about those things which, while you don't have to follow, norms and protocols is a very important part of the program, but a lot of it is sort of why you should follow the norms and protocols, not because you have to follow the norms and protocols.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming out. Apologize, we were running a little bit behind here. Joe?
Sorry, I thought we were just done with the conversation about the courses, but I did want him to cover a couple other things, if that's okay.
It's fine.
So one of the things that I asked you to talk a little bit about was the self-evaluation. So can you talk about some of the benefits of going through that exercise?
Well, We have in the packet what we call a governance rubric, which is a very pretty basic self-evaluation tool that you can take and look at. The benefits of the self-evaluation is really to help the committee look at where the committee thinks it needs to do more work, whether it's in terms of communication with each other, with the superintendent, whether it's in terms of goal setting, or any of the other aspects of your responsibilities. And a lot of it is just the ability to look at it and have those discussions and come to an understanding of where people think you're doing well, where people think you need improvement. And so, you know, what practices do we want to continue because we think we're doing it effectively, or what practices do we want to work on and perhaps change because the consensus is that we're not being effective about it.
And that can be as simple as filling out a simple rubric that explains high performance versus low performance on certain standards, a checklist of meeting issues to help meetings become more efficient. We have additional rubrics that are extremely complex and much more detailed than these, all of them available for you to look at, and all of them available for going through a self-evaluation exercise with the school committee. Be a very constructive process.
And then if the self-evaluation or work with district governance yields a set of operating norms and protocols, that can become a basis for your self-evaluation in the future. That, you know, you look at how well you're following your protocols, not only in terms of, you know, you've carved them in stone and how well are you following them, but do they need to be altered to help you be more effective?
Great. So this is all very good information. I know you guys are seeing it for the first time. They're going to be handing out the packets shortly. But if you could take the time, obviously, to go through some of the material, I think, you know, I think we'd be doing a disservice if we didn't take advantage of, a disservice to the community if we didn't take advantage of some of the resources that they have available to us. You know, there's always room for improvement, and we should be doing everything we can to seek professional development and to find ways to continue to add value to this community and this school district. So, you know, maybe when we get together at the next meeting after we've had time to review the material, we can make a decision as to whether or not we want to move forward with bringing them in and going through some of the programs that they have to offer.
Okay. Included in the package is a course listing as well?
There's a pamphlet that lists the district governance
Excellent.
workshops that are available.
And our website has a complete list of all the different things that are available. We also will customize something specifically for you if there's a topic that you want to cover that we wouldn't otherwise do.
And in the district governance program, it is tailored to every specific committee. We do have some conversation about where you are, so it's not like we're going into every committee and presenting exactly the same material the exact same way. We are trying to learn what the committee wants to emphasize in the training, and where you may be in terms of goal setting or superintendent evaluation, and tailor that to specifically what you would like to discuss.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. In the interest of time, any other members have any other questions? All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate it, and we'll look forward to reviewing those packages. So we are going to move on to the Woodland Elementary School Teacher Handbook and School Improvement Committee plan. So much.
Thanks.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are we? All right. So, Student Teacher Handbook and School Improvement. You tell us where you want to start.
If I may, can I have a word about scheduling?
Yes.
I apologize for if I look a little tired. I've been pied in the face twice this week. Dunked in a dunk tank numerous times.
You should really talk to your assistant, to the principal, about that.
Yeah. as far as the scheduling process goes, I feel the need to clarify a few things too. It was said a couple times, it's not an easy process, especially when you have to juggle schedules between Milford High School, Stacy, and Middle School East. There's a clear need for additional staff. But Matt Baudet's schedule is such, he's the string teacher at our school, that he goes between all of those schools. As a former health teacher, that's where I cut my teeth in this district, teaching health. So I was a part of the committee. I was aware of the recommendation in the policy set forth of phys ed. And I also recognize that I was in violation. So I don't think it's totally fair to put the blame on Dr. Tremblay. I was in violation too. So I think that collaborating with Nadine and collaborating with Lisa, we came up with a schedule that works to, for the time being, appease everybody. There was a time, admittedly, where there have been thoughts in my head about pushing it to after school or before school, or just trying to creatively think of ways that we can schedule around strings. However, as my kids who are in a different district have grown up, I've seen music programs in another district who primarily teach before school and after school, and they can't touch what our kids do. It's not even close. So I think that, I mean, I heard what everybody had to say today. You guys received some. I received more than you. So I know the importance of keeping the string program intact in the class. So I'm glad that Nadine was able to work it out with us. All we needed was 3 periods, and once we got our 3 periods, I filled those out, and Lisa filled in the holes. So I think it was a true collaborative effort between a lot of different people. So that's all. I'm happy that we were able to temporarily, at least, fix it. So hopefully nobody else's schedule changes. So.
And in support of Craig, in our conversation yesterday, he did stress how important it is for the schedule here for high school. So all I can ask, Gary, is please work with him to make sure that all of a sudden we're going into the new year with issues. So appreciate that. And thank you, Craig, because I know for you to say what you just said, it's not an easy thing, but appreciate it.
I just want to say something as a parent of a child who is currently in the string program and currently this year was pulled out of one of her gym classes. My daughter spends 7 hours a week in the cheer gym, so for her to miss 40 minutes to be able to have the benefits of the string program, my daughter has been in music since she was 4 years old. She took piano from Mrs. Tremblay. She could read music before she could read words. For me as a parent, I have no problem with her missing 40 minutes of gym to be able to have that music. Because to push it after school, she wouldn't get it because I can't get her to extended day. I wouldn't be able to get her there before school because she goes to extended day. She has cheer after school. I think in the multitudes of things that the teachers have, or the building administrators have to schedule, that as a parent, I never had an issue with it. That's all I want to say.
Thank you.
Surprisingly.
Well, I suggest we start with the handbook and
That'd be great.
let Lisa take over for a second.
Thanks. Really, with our handbook changes this year, you're going to notice there isn't a lot of changes in our handbook. It was just some basic changing of the dates, updating some names. We did adopt the district policy on discipline, so it was really minimal from our effort this year. But we did put a lot of work in, and a credit to the staff last year to really pulling apart our policies in the handbook and you know, looking at different things that we were doing at Woodland and making it effective. So you're going to see very minimal things this year.
Okay.
Want to move to the school improvement plan? Or do we have to?
Yeah, we've got to take a vote.
sorry.
Yeah, we've got to
Okay.
take a
Sorry.
vote on that one first, and then yes.
Yeah.
So you can
I do have a comment. I mean, that it seems that Craig seems to deliver to us very complete student handbooks that are very well thought out. Everyone that I've read has always been, there's been very few changes that I would ever wish to challenge. So that's a credit not only to Craig, but to Lisa, who I know, both of whom worked very, very hard on getting this right and getting it done. So I just want to commend both of you because it's always good.
Excellent.
Can't leave out Julie.
Right. Julie
the
actually does
editor.
all the typing for us, so she's great.
Excellent.
That being said, I do offer a motion to accept the Woodland Elementary School Student Handbook for the 2014-2015 school year.
Take a motion from Patrick, a second from Joey. All in favor? Has been accepted. Thank you
Alright.
both. Why don't we move on to the school improvement plan?
School improvement plan. First, I'd like to recognize members of the school council this year. Teacher representatives Corey Daniels, Tara Davern, Adam Manning, Kathy Peliquin, Shanna Roach, parent representative Dave Ferreira, co-chair Marsha Montgomery, who's here with us today, Lauren Webb, Chris Wilson, and our community representative before she had to resign was Jen Parsons. So
Just like me because I typed for you.
yeah, she took very good notes, very good. So that was a tough one to lose. Corey stepped up.
Okay.
First, we accomplished as a school a tremendous amount this year, and I'm so proud of the staff. We took their plate that was already this big, and I don't know, I can't put my arms around how big this plate is that we shoved so many initiatives on their plates, and every one of them, to their credit, stepped up with honestly very, very little resistance, very little. So that's the first thing. Some things that we did that had hopefully an immediate impact are we took our reading intervention program and created a block of time within our schedule to provide intervention for every student, whether you're ELL, special ed, general ed. Every student gets intervention services from our reading intervention teachers and actually all staff, 1 period a day, and that's in addition to the reading and the language arts that they already get. So that was huge, and just to move around staff and for staff to be willing to, you know, and the reading intervention teachers traditionally were a couple 3rd grade and a couple 4th grade, and they were pulling here and there, and they worked around the schedule. But when we sat and we talked and we created these blocks, it allowed us to put 4 reading intervention teachers per team. So we're talking about 4 teachers working with a group of 5 teachers and being able to really service our lowest need children, and in the meantime get to that. We had an enrichment block too, Richmond paraprofessionals who took out our top students and left the middle with the classroom teacher, which, you know, if you work in schools, you know that the services for the middle student, sometimes they get lost, but I mean, they're serviced, but not to the level that we were able to do it this year. So I'm hoping that our state standardized tests show the kind of increases that we saw with our GMAT and our grade. So credit to all staff on that. We're working really hard in infusing technology. We realize that, you know, in 2 years we're going to have this state-of-the-art building with all the technological bells and whistles. Anything you can imagine, hopefully, will be there. So we're trying to introduce interactive technology now, so that when we get into the new building, we can just hit the ground running. So we're getting there. Moving forward, we're going to work with the instructional technology teacher and hopefully get some co-teaching going with that. So we're looking forward to that. We're trying to, in this year, think about math. So last year we attacked our reading intervention and attacking kids that are struggling with reading. This year we're going to try to figure out a way to help students in math. Currently there's 2 45-minute blocks dedicated a day to math, which we're looking to shift to a more of a 60-minute math lesson and maybe 30 minutes of interventions, and try to help with math students that way. So we'll see how that works out. We've just recently hired an enrichment teacher to replace 2 enrichment paraprofessionals. I'd actually like to recognize Janet Fry and Dolores Herx for what they've done for our students and our staff. They did a good job with the limited resources that they had. So I don't know, I'd just like to thank them. We'd fully implemented Baseline Edge this year. I think we got pretty close to meeting all the deadlines with every single staff member, and I know Jen can attest to it, what a daunting and overwhelming system the new evaluation system is with all the deadlines. So if we didn't make them all, we were real close to all of them. So that's a credit to all the staff as well. We had a great professional development plan this year, and moving forward, we'd like to continue that. We worked really hard with RTI and Kelly True, Jared Anzalone, Corey Daniels, and Mary Olson. They basically created this professional development program for our entire staff, and anytime we had half days, full days, anytime we had an hour here, an hour there, they were with teachers, teaching all the things that they know. And if you've ever met one of them, the knowledge that they have is incredible, and we're really lucky to have these experts. So I'd like to thank them. Next year, we'd also like to expand our data team. We started the data team under the direction of Dr. McIntyre. We'd like to establish clear expectations. We'd like to have some research questions that we want to answer and have a mission statement. So we're looking forward to that. We'd like to expand our programs with dedicated specialist night. And if you've ever been to parent, and I know most of you have, but our back to school nights, usually the focus on back to school nights are parent teacher conferences. It's in the classroom, and sometimes the specialists get left by the wayside. I was a specialist. I could probably count on my hand how many parents I saw on those nights. And I taught 500 out of 1,000 kids, so it was rather lonesome at times. So we had the music teachers and the phys ed teachers this year collaborated and volunteered actually to come in the spring, and they had this informants at night. Our facilities are such that they had to cut it in half, and they had half of the school during the first hour and then half of the school the second hour, but the attendance, it was phenomenal. It was in the hundreds, which is terrific when you're competing with all kinds of sports in the spring. You get, it was phenomenal. So we're looking to expand on that, which I hope will be good. we're looking to expand on our team collaboration time. We were able to work in our schedule common planning time this year for all teachers. So the teams met one time a week to collaborate, which again is huge. The more we can get our teachers talking and getting them on the same page and talking about student issues and curriculum, I think the better off we'll be. So Lisa and I are working on ways to free staff up more often for that. What else I want to say? We also have talked about starting next year, creating ways to start to integrate fifth grade teachers down with Woodland staff, and start building a team that way too, because in 2 years the fifth grade teachers will be down to us. So we need to start working with Stacy a little bit and seeing how many times we can get those fifth grade teachers down with us and start aligning vertically. Just a couple more things, I promise. We are trying to expand our community partnerships, and one of the ways that we talked about, well, actually, that this is Lisa's brainchild, is Meet Your Neighbor Day. And I don't know, you explain it.
So the idea was, this is, we kind of sit together and then ideas float out, and then all of a sudden I see it on the school improvement plan. So, so basically, Craig and I were talking about what we have, dental programs that come in, and just how can we really open up to the community. And we know that the middle school and the high school, they do a career day, and we've both been part of it. So we thought, how could we bring some of the people in our community to our kids, so that way they could see, it could be parents, it could be, our police officers, our firefighters. And so we thought of having a day where we could showcase that and have representatives from our community come in and really talk to our kids. Instead of doing it like on a one-shot where we're pulling kids out, we're just going to have them one day come and we can have this fair for them. So it's something we'll work on this summer.
Great.
It's your idea too, yeah.
No. All right. I do want to highlight one of our community outreach programs. Adam Manning, he's a third grade teacher. He volunteers to run Homework Haven. If anybody knows anything about Homework Haven it's a partnership that he has with it was started, the history is it was started with, is it Carrie Brandt? Somebody like that. Yeah. I think Carrie Brandt, in a church. And what happens is they offer this tutoring session. So Adam Manning volunteers. We run this Homework Haven for all of our students. Anybody that wants to come goes to the church. I don't know which one it is. It's downtown. The kids come. They get help with homework. Adam's working with some high school students. So some of the high school kids come down and help their National Honor Society students. They feed the kids, help with their homework, and then send them on their way. So, and again, he does it totally volunteer. So, kudos to him. But also our parent partnerships. The events at Woodland are phenomenal. They're well attended. Like I said, we just had our carnival, and I really don't know where people parked because there were people everywhere. And Deb Flanagan, who's leaving us, unfortunately, she's been with us a couple of years now. She calls herself a carny, which I believe, because she has Plinko. She has all these carnival games that are just sitting in her house. So I don't know. I just picture like a tightrope in her backyard, and it's amazing. So if anybody needs any carnival games, I can get you some of that information.
We actually dedicated a wall to her this year. So
yes.
We have her picture hanging up on our wall.
Well, she was at the PTO summit or something. I don't know. Which sounds like a great event. If you ever have a chance, what's that event in California that they dress up like the superheroes and stuff?
Comic-Con?
Yeah. Sounds a lot like that with PTO people dressed up in different ways. So I may attend. And then Davy Crockett. And then just finally, we've talked about the impact that the new building and the whole process is going to have on our school. We're going to lose the field. It's certainly going to impact a lot of different things. Temporarily. Couple years anyways. But not in the fall either, from what I understand. That'll be more in the spring that we'll lose that. But, so it gives us a little bit of time to think about, evacuation. When we evacuate now, that's the only space that we have that's large enough, so we have to think about things like that. Think about how we're gonna have kids, what they're gonna do for PE. We're gonna be left with basically streets and parking lots in Woodland, and we talked about coming up with a way maybe to get them to Tank Field or even the high school field or something. So we also have to talk about how we're gonna get parents in and out of our parking lot if things are roped off in different ways. So those are things that we have to work on next year too. And of course, we'll stay, we've been meeting regularly with the architects and other experts and whatever it is. We just met with the furniture people. So we'll just keep continuing to meet with these people and offering suggestions. So
Can only imagine, I can only imagine. Building a house is a full-time job, I can only imagine, and that's only trying to fit a family.
Yeah.
Trying to fit 1,000 kids has got to be an unbelievable undertaking.
So that's us next year.
Great. Thank you. Any members have any questions? All right.
I just wanted to say that as having been part of the school council at the beginning of the year and all the different things that you're implementing in terms of intervention and supporting students. I know last year, at the end of the year, was the vision to put something into place for RTI and supporting learners with different challenges. And here you are a year later, and you've put that into place, and now you have a plan for math and how you're going to tackle that. And I have to give you a lot of credit, because there's no right answer to how, whether we do 60-30 or 4 reading teachers or whatever it is. But on top of all the other things that are on your plate, including this new endeavor of the new building, you've managed to bring these things to fruition. And there wasn't one meeting that I ever attended where an idea didn't come up around the table, where the answer wasn't, yeah, we can work on that, yeah, we can work on that, we can. And here is the proof in the school improvement plan that so many things have actually had a really positive conclusion. So thank you for that.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you guys. It's your plans continue to be succinct, on point, and continue to do just leaps and bounds. It's amazing to see what you guys undertake every year, and again, nothing but compliments that I continue to hear coming out of the school and about your leadership and your partnership there. So, and to each of your faculty and to all of your faculty as well. So, with that being said, I'll take a motion to adopt the school improvement from Mr. Walsh. Second from.
Motion to adopt the very succinct and well organized school improvement plan
For Woodland School. Excellent, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? It is unanimous. It's
Good
adopted.
job.
Have
Thank
a
you
great
very
night,
much.
guys. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll make sure you run home and turn us on.
Craig TiVo's it. So.
Had to get that in.
Craig's got it on DVD. All right, so we will move on to the next agenda here. I think we got them locked in. For some reason that door's locked. So, move on to Milford High School. Student Teacher Handbook, School Improvement Plan, Guidance Department, College Admissions Presentation.
Well, thank you for having us this evening. We're delighted to be here to talk with you about our student handbook and to present our school improvement plan, and to also present to you the accomplishments of the class of 2014 in terms of their college admissions. But before I begin, I would like to take a moment to thank Mark and Matt and Brian for their extraordinary support this year and for their leadership in the school. We are as you know, a brand new administrative team this year, and with something that is as new as this was for all of us, comes a lot of challenges and a lot of conversations and a lot of obstacles that we need to overcome together. And we did that this year together, and I'm very grateful to all three of them for their support of me as a new principal. And I also want to mention that the faculty have been extraordinarily supportive to me, as well as the student body. So when you go through transition and change and you're building a new team and you're trying to move things forward in a certain direction, it really takes people pulling together for a common goal, and we enjoyed that this year. And so I want to thank you, all three of you, very much for all your help.
Excellent.
We'd like to begin this evening by talking about our handbook. That's acceptable. I'm going to ask, excuse me, I will ask Mark and Brian to start with that.
So, just in the interest of time, very similar to the way from that Craig went through it, any red line items, definitely highlight any major changes, unless the committee has any objections. High level, red line only. We don't need to read through it cover to cover. We are down to 120 minutes left before we are, by law, required to end this meeting.
Okay.
Okay, understood.
So we'll go as quick as we can.
Not to mention the fact that I may not get out of this meeting alive if we could go until midnight,
Right.
so.
Okay.
I'll do it together. Well, the first, if you could go right to the front page, I do want to highlight a major issue that we dealt with in putting this handbook together was the cell phone protocol that we're calling it. It's something I know that we've talked about numerous times throughout the year. And kudos to Carrie putting together a committee that met early March over a couple week periods with faculty, staff, as well as students that had input into finally putting together this cell phone protocol. On the sign-off page, we did make a point to have the parents sign off that they had read the protocol and understand the protocol, so it's something they have to check yes when they pass this in, so we know that they read that. That goes on to page 8 in the handbook, which is a red line item that has the new protocol in there, which all of you have probably seen now at this point and have an idea of what it's about. So I don't know if there's any questions on that. We can take those, but
I'll open up. Anybody have any questions with regards to?
Excuse me, not page 8.
I was going to say page 8 is visiting Milford Public
Yep.
Schools.
It's page 13.
Okay. Any member have any questions, concerns? Joe?
Scott, the only thing I'll add there, and we would get to this once we get to the policy subcommittee update, but the policy subcommittee's recommendation is to leave the cell phone protocol at the discretion of the schools. So I don't know if we have to vote on that first before approving the handbook, or if.
Yep. So no, what we would do is if there's no change recommended, it's an open discussion actually as part of the policy subcommittee. So we can sort of take it as a side note, and then if we can take a second vote if need be. So that's fine.
Okay.
All right, so the next thing on page 8 in the handbook is the visiting Milford Public Schools adjustment. This is a procedure that was incorporated for this past year. Again, we had all those changes late in the summer, and so, you know, the handbook was already created, so we couldn't get it into the handbook. So we've just documented it and made it official here.
Any questions? Yes.
I want to do that one too.
Yeah, now on page 17 in the handbook, based on Milford Public Schools' legal representation, we have taken all their feedback on, you know, what the new law is, 37H and 3/4, and incorporated all the you know, verbiage that she provided, and we've inserted it into this handbook, and it's increased our handbook significantly. So there are quite a few adjustments here.
Any members have any questions? Thank you.
And the final piece that we wanted to highlight was on page 46, the attendance policy, and putting together what we went through this year and then looking back to what was in the past year. We sort of came up with the best solution we felt in terms of number of days that we can allow students to miss and have enough time on learning that they're gaining the curriculum, with it being, as it's presenting here, with the 6 days and a quarter, 12 days for a semester, and 24 days for a full year course. Okay. Is our recommendations there.
Okay, excellent. Any member have any questions or concerns? All right, great. Anything else on the handbook? All right.
That was our major changes.
Excellent. Thank you,
Yeah.
guys. I appreciate your overview. Appreciate all the work, and I don't want to minimize the fact that full appreciation of how much work you guys put into this as well. And thank you. You guys did a great job. With that being said, I'll take a motion to adopt and accept the student-teacher handbook of Milford High School. Take a motion.
That's with the flexibility to change that policy.
Correct. Yep. With the one exclusion of the potential to change and alter the cell phone policy if there's a district-wide policy that is adopted with any differentiation. Motion from Dawn, second from Joey. All in favor? Motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen, and Ms. Banach.
And so I will move on to the school improvement plan, and one of the changes we made was to make sure that our school improvement plan was aligned to the district improvement plan, and so we categorized all our initiatives under the 4 standards that are aligned to the district improvement plan. And so what you'll see is a little bit of a different layout beginning on page 5. The 4 standards that are aligned to the district are Standard 1, Curriculum Planning and Assessment, Standard 2, Teaching All Students, Standard 3, Family and Community Engagement, and Standard 4, Professional Culture. One of our big changes this year that will continue into next year is our new schedule. The new schedule was met with great success this year. It was a transition for students. It was a transition for our faculty. But we were talking about just today the fact that the new schedule is having a significant impact on student learning. We had students come back, students from the class of 2013 come back just this week, and to meet with students in the class of 2015 to talk about the college experience. And so we had what we call a step back day as opposed to the step up day. And so students come back and they meet with the current juniors and they talk with them about what college life is about, what preparation they feel they had from high school that really helped them in college, what they wish they had done differently in high school in order to prepare themselves for college. And one of the students went on to explain to the students in the audience, student who's at Assumption now, she's told them that she firmly believes that the new schedule is going to help them so much more in their preparedness for college, because on our former schedule, our students were not managing as many classes as they are now. They would manage 3 major subjects, and now most students are managing 5, and a lot of them are managing 6, which more closely mirrors number of courses that students manage at college all at once. So that was really positive to hear. She also talked to the students a lot about advanced placement courses, the fact that those are the courses that prepared her the best, and that for students who are hedging a little bit about taking that, maybe that first, second, or third AP course, that indeed they should do that, because that is the type of curriculum and rigor that will prepare students for college. So we were really happy to have our students come back who have graduated to talk to the current juniors about what college life is like, and share their experiences from the academic angle, and also just the transition angle of leaving home for the first time and living in a dorm and having a roommate and needing to compromise and make decisions with somebody else that may not be easy. But when you share a room and you don't have your own bedroom anymore, and you have to make those kind of compromises. So there was a lot of life lessons talked about as well. So that was a great experience for our students. So we're very grateful to the students from 2013 who came back to talk with our current students. So if you look at page 6, one of the things that we've been talking about a lot this year is quality points, and taking a look at our courses that have quality points versus our courses that do not. And so our school council talked about that early on this year, and it was interesting because I became aware that the members of the school council didn't realize that we had some courses that aren't weighted, as we call it. So we, as a school council, we're going to start taking a look at the courses that are weighted, the courses that aren't weighted, courses that we offer at an honors and AP level, courses that we aren't yet offering at the honors and AP level, and talk about what it is we need to do to offer more to students, more choices, more levels, and give appropriate weights to courses as is important to their transition into college, their GPAs and so forth, because
with GPA, you can have a local GPA where we decide that we are going to weight certain courses, but that the college will decide they will not accept that weight. And so we want to look at that. We want to make sure that our courses that are weighted are courses that colleges would weight, and they would accept that and not remove a weight that we might have on a current course. So our students, when they graduate with a GPA, we want it to be pretty tightly aligned to what the college would say that the GPA is, and not take a 3.8 and say, well, no, that's a 3.5 to us, because we aren't going to accept the weight on some of these courses. So we're in pretty good shape with it, but I think that that's an area of improvement and discussion for us. So I'll probably be coming back next year with some recommendations and thoughts about our weighting system. We also, on page 6, are looking to continue to expand internships and career experiences for students. One of the new courses, as we've talked about before, is the sophomore seminar that will talk, we will meet with students to address career interest, developing a student resume, how to interview for a job, how to go on a college interview, and so forth. So we'll be looking more at that. We're looking at internships for our students as well, particularly in the Pathways program. And as I believe everyone knows, the hospitality and tourism management students will be doing field work at the Doubletree Hotel beginning in the 2nd semester next year. So those initiatives will continue to move forward. NEASC, our NEASC self-studies next year. So I actually have a report due to them tomorrow to inform them of the steering committee and the direction of the committees for next year. So that's something that will be a big initiative for us next year and take up probably all of our professional development time, the self-study initiatives. So all our faculty members will be involved in that, and we look forward to showcasing all the achievements of our students and our faculty through that self-study. On page 7, just we will continue on with our DESE initiatives, the DDMs in park and retail, although the high school won't be involved with park next year as we were this year. But we will continue, of course, to move forward all the expectations that they have of us. One thing that we need to do is work the lab time into the schedule, and I will certainly be very mindful of working with Nadine and with Craig to any change to that, but it will still be a 6-period day just like it is now, but we do need to consider having a couple of 75-minute periods during the day and pulling back the amount of time on the others and kind of rotating this through the schedule so we can get labs in for all our classes. But I will certainly be very judicious about how that happens and making sure everybody's informed with that. Algebra 1, we haven't, the Algebra 1 concepts is new next year. We have dissolved the integrated classes, and we are moving forward with an Algebra 1 concepts for all students. We are also going to continue our discussions with East, the mathematics team, 8 through 12, so that we can ensure that 8th grade math is moving in the direction of Algebra 1 for all students at the 8th grade level. Right now, and I believe we touched on this before too, we have a small cohort of students in the 8th grade that take Algebra 1, and we really need to completely reverse that and have Algebra 1 in the 8th grade. That is the standard in the state, that Algebra 1 is an 8th grade course. Colleges will still accept Algebra 1 as a high school course in the 9th grade. However, there's a lot of dialogue at the state level that will be changing. So we want to make sure that Algebra 1 is moved to the 8th grade to the extent that it can, knowing that some students will still need to come into the high school and take Algebra 1. But that's something that we'll continue to dialogue on. On page 8, again, it's already been touched on, but the cell phone protocol, which is what we're calling it for the time being, a protocol, not a policy, because certainly we will, whatever direction you give us with that. But right now, our cell phone protocol is an initiative for next year. We purchased the cell phone lockers and have been talking with students about it, and I will send home a detailed letter to parents over the summer about the changes with this, to the cell phone protocol. In terms of security and safety, we have been in conversation about the traffic flow at the high school. We have a lot of concerns about the traffic flow in the front of the building, and we had a meeting, John Tanner was involved, and we've been talking about marking lanes, one way in, one way out, to ensure student safety out front here right now. As you all, some of you are on the Safety and Security Committee, and we talked about the fact that people are coming in from all angles and exiting from all angles, and students are sometimes darting out into the traffic. So we really need to take a hard look at a traffic flow pattern that will ensure safety for the students. Curriculum-wise, this year we had a school-wide writing goal, and all departments were accountable for that. Everyone, all our major academic subjects, as well as practical arts, physical education, health, all courses were instituting throughout the year and will continue to do so next year, writing prompts to improve our writing scores on the PSAT and the MCAS. So we work together, and very special thanks to Eamon Cunningham, who's the director, the CTL of the English department, who developed a school-wide rubric for grading these assessments that all teachers and all disciplines are issuing to students. And again, this writing across the curriculum, the idea of analytical writing across the curriculum is one that we all firmly believe in, and all teachers have bought into this. And so we're going to continue that initiative in the belief that this is going to have a significant impact on our writing scores on the MCAS and on the SAT. And so that's something that we will continue into next year as well. And, you know, sometimes people will say, well, it's the English teachers, you know, who have to do the writing, or the history teachers, and very special credit to our faculty who believe, they all believe that it is everyone's responsibility, and they all have significant buy-in to school-wide writing goals. So we're going to continue that next year as well. On page 11, we'll continue with virtual learning opportunities for the students and expand that as needed. Apex, our contract with Apex is up. They've been in touch with us already, so come September, we need to renew that. We have some new ideas with Apex. They have a couple of new programs, but this is to ensure that our students access comprehensive curriculum through blended learning in our through our classes at the high school, but also if we cannot offer them something because there's a schedule problem or otherwise it's not offered, that they have access to all courses through virtual learning. And lastly, just to continue to increase our presentations for parents in the community, our 8th grade orientation program, our parent orientation program, to continue to have principals' coffees on a regular basis where parents can come in and just talk with us on an informal basis in the morning to bring up any concerns. When we did the scheduling this year, student scheduling, a lot of parents came in and just wanted to touch base about some of the new course offerings. So that was well received, and we will continue with that. And as I think everyone knows, we began live streaming from our webpage this year, and that is very special thanks to Jeremy Folster, who is our video production teacher. He has done a phenomenal job getting this up and running, and it's the third click down on the left from our homepage where you can click in there to, it's ihigh.com, and we have everything archived there. It's for parents' convenience, community members, awards night, the Dick Corbin Athletic Awards night, our graduation, it's all archived right there as a live stream, and then, well, live stream when it's played and then archived, and we have a Twitter feed as well, and so that's being used to communicate information out to students and parents. So those are the highlights of our school improvement plan.
Excellent, thank you guys. Any member have any questions? All right, seeing none, I will take a motion for Milford High School to adopt Milford High School School Improvement Plan for 2014-2015. Motion from Mike, second from Jen. All in favor? None opposed? It's adopted. Have a great day. Have a great, well, actually, we've got one more, the Guidance Department College Admissions presentation.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for your interest in this, and I'm happy to present information from this past year, specifically about the class of 2014. I think everybody got the information about the guidance report that was sent out. So I'll just go over and highlight a few things. I'll be as brief as I can with them. The number of students in the class of 2014, 267. 71% of the class got into 4-year institutions. 15% got into 2-year institutions. We also had students one student going to a prep school, 2 students doing gap year assignments, 18 going on to employment, 1 going into the military, and then 15 others who were undecided. And of those undecided students, those students were at the highest risk of not graduating. They did graduate, and most likely they'll go into the categories of going to a 2-year institution, going into employment, or the military. When we compare those statistics to the class of 2013, we're happy to say that we have an increase of the percentage of students going on to college, which is something that we're very happy about. I think in the goals that I would like to see and what we talk about in the guidance department is trying to increase the amount of students going to 4-year institutions and continuing to either stay the same or go up in the amount of students who are going on to college. As I take a step back just quickly, the guidance counselors and the guidance staff have been excellent to work with this year. I've really been happy to step into a department that has a lot of expertise and a lot of enjoyment and a lot of energy to do their job and to work with the students at Milford High School. So I just wanted to note that as I did my presentation. So in terms of the college matriculation and where students are going, on the second page, the students of the class of 2014 will attend 75 colleges and university offering post-secondary opportunities. These schools are located in 16 states in the District of Columbia. The amount of students who are going to colleges and universities in Massachusetts are 178. In New England states, that totals 35. And outside of New England, there are 18 students going to colleges. One of the things that we noted in looking back on this class was that 37% of the students of the class of 2014 were accepted into one of the top 3 tiers of schools, and these tiers in competitiveness are determined by the Barron's Profile of American Colleges. That's generally accepted as a way to judge competitiveness in the guidance world, so to speak. So I listed those schools on that page 2, as you can see, and they're some of the most highly and very competitive colleges across the United States. So we're very happy with the colleges that the students were accepted to. I don't know if there are any other questions, or if you want me to, I can continue on. I didn't want to go on too fast.
Do we have any questions from the committee on this? Is there any? Okay.
All right, I'll just continue on. The third page is the College of 2014 College Matriculation Report, where students are actually going. So the previous report is where they got accepted to. This one is where the students are actually going to colleges. And they really represent a diverse amount of schools across the United States. Schools that are very close to home as Mass Bay and UMass Lowell and UMass Dartmouth, UMass Amherst, but we have a student going to the University of Hawaii and colleges on the West Coast. So I think it really represents the initiative of, I think, students really looking outside of Massachusetts and looking into a lot of different options. The most popular colleges are in our state system where students are going. The most students are going to Mass Bay Community College, UMass Amherst, and Framingham State University.
I just want to add one statistic to that. As far as the acceptance rates from the Barron's Profile, if you look at the students, there's 190 students in the class of 2014 that are attending 4-year schools. And of the 190, 98 of them are going to one of those top tier schools. So it's actually, the statistic on that is closer to 53% of the kids going on to one of the top tier schools. It's a little lower if you look at the entirety of the class, 267, but if you look at the 190 that are going to 4-year schools, that's very, bodes very well for the class to have 53% of the kids going on to one of those top tier schools. So The class of 2014, they were a fantastic class, great class for me, a real blessing for me as a first-year principal.
Thank you.
Definitely. I just added 2 other slides, and that was in response to questions about the Massachusetts College state system. So I listed those slides as, this is public information through the Mass Department of Higher Education in terms of the GPA and the SAT or ACT scores that students submit when they're applying to school. So it's a sliding scale in terms of GPA and SATs. As the GPA goes down, they're looking for higher SAT and ACT scores. And they break it down into 2 different categories in terms of the Massachusetts state colleges, which would include Framingham State, Bridgewater State, Mass College of Liberal Art. I believe there are 13 schools on that list. And then the Massachusetts State University system, which are the UMass's, UMass Amherst, UMass Dartmouth, UMass Lowell, and UMass Boston. So what we're seeing at the state universities is the UMass schools, we're seeing less students get into it. We're seeing their qualifications and their recommendations going a little bit higher. Because some of the trends that we're seeing is we're seeing more students apply to those state universities because they have some of the higher reputations, especially UMass Amherst in the state of Massachusetts. But we're still seeing a high amount of students get in to those UMass schools from Milford High School. So I just wanted to add some of the trends that we're seeing in the guidance department with college admissions. Colleges putting less emphasis on class rank. I know Carrie talked a little bit about that, and I know it's going to be looked at in terms of quality points. But what they're putting more of an emphasis on are student grades and the difficulty of courses. When we talk about those honors courses and AP courses that students are taking. Social media is playing a much larger role for students and colleges. I would say more on a positive note in terms of colleges really keying into social media. And actually looking at the social media sites where students are a part of. The early action volume of applications is increasing. This is causing the college application process to start earlier in high school. The increased use of technology that we're seeing, and I think everybody's experienced with the online applications and electronic transcripts. One of our goal and guidance is to make sure that online recommendations from teachers that we make that capability next year. Right now, teachers are still just sending off paper applications. And then I talked about the increase in students applying to state schools. Sorry, I didn't mean to go on too far, but
No,
yeah,
fine.
I'll answer any questions that you have at this time.
Any members have any?
Yeah, the only reason why I asked about the state school piece, again, most of our students do apply there and get accepted. But again, I had a conversation with the vice president of admissions at Worcester State, who informed me that this year they made changes, quite significant changes, where what they were looking to do is only bring in kids with 2.5 or higher. So I'm sure these stats were from prior to this year. What I would really love is if you could reach out not just to that gentleman, but the other state schools and speak to their admission individuals to make sure that we understand next year what those requirements are, so then we can articulate that to the kids and to the parents, and make sure that they're not applying if they're not gonna, be qualified, because I know that was a big concern that was voiced to me. So if we could just make that one thing, one requirement, which would be to reach out to them, make sure we're well informed as to what their admission criteria is gonna be for the following year, so that way we can better guide our students. I think it would be very much appreciated by the community.
Sure. We have colleges that come in for college fairs in September and October. That gives myself and the guidance counselors a good chance to be able to network with those college admissions counselors. So we'll make sure to make more of a point this year to do that.
I just wanted to thank you for putting this together. It's really important to see where they're going, but it's even more important to see where they're accepted. But I also wanted to comment on the awards night that you held, that I attended for the first time. this year. And I don't know if you typically do the presentation with the photos and naming the colleges that they attend, but that is so powerful to see where those kids are going on the huge screen and then see the kids and what awards they're getting. It really just kind of gave some personality and some life behind the names of the schools, and in the reverse, looking at the kids and what they've accomplished and where they're off to. So I appreciated that. I'm
Thank
sure
you.
that was a lot of work that went into that.
Thank you very much. There is a real, like I started with, it's a very collaborative effort to have all the events that we had during senior week and graduation, and thank you for that. And I'm very grateful for everyone's help with that, the administration, the faculty, the staff. There's a lot of time and energy that go into it, so I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Great. Thank you guys all very, very much. We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank
Thank you
you.
guys.
Thank
Sorry you're here so late.
Yes.
It's all right.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
If we get enough kids tomorrow.
All right. Bob, we're on to you. Report of the superintendent of schools. Got a couple of quick updates here.
Quick updates. I want to first make a comment, though. Thank you, guys, for your presentation tonight.
Thank you, guys.
Just a quick comment, is it sounds like from the earlier discussion, we're going to be moving any discussion about me and whatever action is going to happen into a closed-door session.
Yep.
And since the fact that I have nothing particularly to hide in open session, I'm going to violate my own rights for a moment, just to respond back, because I want to get some clarity for the public. The BMI request, and Dawn, I may be mistaken on this one. The reason why you referenced it a couple of times about the Milford Daily News having the information, we had the information at our fingertips. I could provide it to you the next day. I don't recall ever getting that. So if it's a mistake that I didn't get the communication, then I take full responsibility for that. But I would have turned it around on a dime, because I did that the same day the Daily News asked for it. And I just want to make that point clear. So whether the correspondence was never given, or I never got it, or you asked for it and I don't remember you asking, I just want to be clear on that, because that's why I turned it around as quickly as I did. Second, with respect to communication, and maybe this will be sorted out when MASC, if the committee chooses to have them work with the committee about communication, I want to make a comment as well about, and I encourage this, maybe regrettably, when there was discussion at the athletic subcommittee about why there was not going to be, why physical education teachers weren't coaching. And I know that you were, and I advised you to have a conversation, Dawn, with Diane Pinto and with David Chaplin, about what is it that PE teachers, why would they come to this profession? And it was a very good point that you and Joe and others made in the meeting. To relate it to a familiar example in music, if I was coming to a school as a band director, and it was an after-school opportunity to conduct the jazz band, and the science teacher was doing it, yeah, but I'm passionate about my profession. Why? It was a good question to ask, and we sorted out some things. But it sounded like from that discussion, it morphed into a further discussion about maybe some concerns that were expressed in the wellness policy that now all of a sudden became a priority for you as a member, which may well become or may not become a priority for the whole school committee. But and then the last point I want to make, and I'll get into my brief updates, and I just want to make sure I'm heard on this. As far as communication goes, I would appreciate it if I could ask that if there's committee members that have questions about policies or things that whether they're being implemented or not, come to me. When you go to school principals and you ask them for their opinion on things, I have nothing to hide on that. I'm fine with that. But I deserve to be asked the question first. If there's a question, if I'm not responding, then hold me accountable to that. But there's a number of times that there was questions asked to the music director, to Craig Consigli, that I had no idea about until a meeting tonight. And in fairness to the work I do, and I'm committed to this town. I've been committed to this town for 16 years, 7 as superintendent, and I give a hell of a lot of time, pardon my expression, to this town. And I will continue to do that as long as the school committee accepts me here. But we're going to have to set some ground rules, okay, if we're going to continue this work. And I'm saying this in open session because I have nothing to hide. And I could care less if we had this discussion in open session. But we'll close the doors. As far as my updates go, I apologize, Mr. Chairman, if I'm out of line. The Woodland School Building project update is going along well, as Craig mentioned in his report. We have our design development meetings. So right now, we're actually at the point where we're putting the specifics into a plan about how the classrooms will look, what kind of faucets, what kind of chairs. It's that level of detail now. So we expect that we'll have that work ongoing. There are a number of school building committee meetings that have been set up and working groups. I believe that we provided a report in the packet, so you have
Yep.
that progress report.
Okay.
I'll continue to do that as updates. Unless there are questions on these, I'm going to move quickly through. I know it's bedtime for many, including me. Item B, Middle School East reuse update. At the last meeting, Mr. Chairman, it was requested that I provide this board with the correspondence from or information about the development of a committee for the potential uses of Middle School East. I provided to the committee a memo dated June 16th from the town administrator. It was submitted to the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, and you can see here the committee membership, as was requested, is provided. And again, so as the way it laid out here, the school committee will need to designate a member to serve on that committee. I don't see a start date on that, but I know it's a very short turnaround time when they want to begin this work. I believe will begin in the fall, if not before. So I'll turn that to you if you have.
Yep, excellent. And thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate you giving me that. I did have an opportunity to watch the meeting as I kind of think about the current subcommittees and I want to be respectful of all the work that everybody is putting in. I would actually, I'm going to, as I've asked Bob, I'm going to, as chair, at this time I'm not on any other subcommittees. I'd actually would like to be, would like you to have, please forward my name along to the Board of Selectmen as the school committee designee for that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I have a question about the Middle School East reuse in the committee. Getting some of my information just from something that I heard on the radio this week. I heard one of our selectmen talking about his concern about what's happening with the school committee and is there more that we should be doing as a committee in terms of the future of East, and are we acting too quickly, and do we not have enough representation? Being new to Milford politics and the way things work, whether it be on a future agenda or a separate meeting, I would like a better understanding of how this committee is working with the selectmen and in this new group that's being put together, so I can understand how we are addressing the long-range plan, how we're addressing possible changes to our opinion on the school and our needs for that school, in particular the gym that everyone has talked about in such detail. But I really don't feel like I have enough knowledge right now as a committee member in terms of what the town is asking of us, and I want to make sure that I assume all of us are doing our part to protect this resource that's currently ours and what the future is.
Okay. Patrick first and then Mike.
I think that's probably, we can probably address that as a review of the long-range ed plan, which does account, and essentially the long-range ed plan, I'm not gonna go into an ad nauseum discussion of long-range ed, because it could go on for half an hour, but it was essentially a committee that was established back in 2003. Representative Fernandez and Selectman Buckley were the co-chairs of that committee, and they developed the entire plan of what our school district should look like and what should be done with the buildings as they come on and offline. So that should probably best be taken up as a discussion of the long-range ed plan. But the wisdom of that committee back when the plan was formed was to turn the building, the Middle School East building, as surplus back to the town, to be disposed of as the wisdom of the selectmen would dictate. But we should definitely review that long-range ed plan.
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth continuing to revisit that. Mike?
The concern that I have is, and it kind of goes along with what Jen has to say, is I have a concern that we build this committee with all these people on it to make a decision on a building that we control. That makes no sense to me at all. That building is still our building to the day, if it does in fact go offline. Why are we allowing another committee to make those decisions for us?
So I think that, again, that kind of goes back to Patrick's point of this is in response to the long-range educational plan.
But there's nothing in the long-range educational plan. It states that we will, if necessary, turn the building over to the Board of Selectmen. But I believe there's nothing in it that says an outside committee would be formed to make a decision what we're gonna do with one of our buildings.
No, it says that there would be, it says in the long-range educational plan, and again, I think that's, I think to Jen and Patrick's point, it's worth, again, revisiting, and we can certainly review and revisit the long-range educational plan. I think it's worth it. I think it's a valuable conversation to go through and have. Part of that long-range educational plan that has continued to be voted upon is that the building in its current form would be turned over to the Board of Selectmen, and it would be the Board of Selectmen's decision of what to do with it. as is the purview of the Board of Selectmen, they can choose to form any committee that they choose, just as we can, as a governing body, choose to form any committee that we choose.
Right.
At the discretion of the chairman. The chairman of the Board of Selectmen has decided that this is a subcommittee that he would like to form.
Out of respect for him, I understand that.
And as a result, he has asked, as has been a discussion on this board, at these meetings over the last several months, in fact, going back even to as far as January, of our willingness and interest of being very active participants in that conversation. So this is a response and at the discretion of the Board of Selectmen chair. He has exercised his authority as chair to form a subcommittee. He has asked for a designee from the school committee, as well as, and again, the chair has that ability and that right to decide who he wants on that committee. And he can ask for designees, he can make recommendations, and he can make appointments. So he's done that. Again, is anything they're doing binding at this point? It wouldn't be binding until the building is turned, to your point, Mike, until the building is turned over to the town, is turned over to the Board of Selectmen. Nothing that this board would do would be binding. They're not a governing body. They're an advisory board only.
So I have two more questions and then
Certainly.
I'll end it. The first question I was asking is the chairman of the Board of Selectmen forming this committee because the school committee was not proactive enough? And they felt that we were just sitting back? And the second thing is that this committee is gonna make a decision on a building that we control right now, still, and there's one school committee member on it? Does that make a lot of sense?
Yeah, and I think that's a fair question. We can certainly ask the chairman of the Board of Selectmen. I can't control his thought process. It's within his purview.
Well,
Thank you.
I will say this, Mike, to your first point. Your second point's a valid one. To your first point, I, as a personal member of the school committee, don't want to administrate a building that's not being used as a school building. We're not set up to create leases and to be landlords and to collect rent and to manage all of that. So if it's not a school building, frankly, I don't want to be burdened with managing it. We have collectively, 350 teachers and countless, not countless number of students, an exact number. How many students do we have, Bob?
4,320 and change.
4,320 students we have to be concerned about. So I agree with you. So long as it's our building, I want complete control over that building. But when it comes to a point where it's no longer a school building any longer, then whatever the selectmen in their wisdom choose to do, I certainly support. But I agree. I think that the fact that we have one member on that might be worth discussion, sure.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair question to ask.
So I agree, Jen, with the press, but in the comments, it was also mentioned that they were gonna do kind of like a feasibility assessment as to, what's the condition of that building. Let's understand what that building needs before we jump into making any decisions. And Mike, to your point, I'm all for trying to keep at least part of that school if possible. One for the gymnasium, which is desperately going to be needed in this town and in this district. I've had other ideas, like maybe expanding Shining Star or Bob's vocational programs. We could do a lot. The question is, what are the needs of that building? What's that going? And so to me, my feeling is I'd rather see all of that come out before we start making these decisions. Because if they tell us that the condition of that building is so poor, it's going to have to be ripped down and it'll impact our decision. So me personally, I was just wanting to see them go through that process and then certainly voice our opinion, because as long as we own it, if there's a way, and what I'm thinking is if there's a way for us to create revenue generating programs and utilize that space and bring more money into the district, then by all means we should be talking about those and considering those. But until we know the condition and the impact that that's going to have, I think would just be ahead of ourselves.
Yeah. And as it states actually very specifically, Mike, to your point, they're actually not making any decisions. In fact, it very specifically says in the handout that we were given that the committee's primary objective, and I'll read right from it, is to review, analyze potential use of the middle school building. Not make and potentially make recommendations. They're not making any decisions. It's reviewing potential use, which I think is part of it. I think your second point is very valid. Right now it's still our building. And right up until that time, it's absolutely in our decision, and we should be very actively making those decisions. You know, up until this point, we've been following our long-range educational plan, so.
Well, respectfully, Mr. Chairman, I think you should reach out to the chairman of the Board of Selectmen and say there's a concern that there's only one school committee member on that
Absolutely.
board. Please.
Absolutely, yep, and I will be
Thank you.
absolutely happy to do that.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Bob?
We'll
Oops,
be
sorry.
adding
Sure.
a review of the long-range plan for a future.
Yeah, that will be in a
agenda
future
item as well.
school, that will be in a future agenda.
Okay.
Yep. I'm not saying that it will be at the next one, it will
Right.
be in a future agenda. Yep.
Item C is just a reminder. I know that it's been a busy last couple of weeks with a lot of distractions for a lot of us, but I would ask that between now and the time we convene again in July, and if I recall correctly, we'll be discussing my goals for me with the school committee in July, my performance review. I meant to mention that to you, Patrick. I left you the okay, you got that. That's a working copy. We'll send you the electronic version as well. And we can certainly get some feedback, but if you kindly just, and I can send it to you again, and I will send it to you again, the strategic plan. You've heard it mentioned tonight, and school improvement plans have been built around it, so we want to make sure we have this in place so that we're not tied up in September, losing any time. So between now and the meeting in July, I'd like to have that so I can present a final plan to the committee. So just as a reminder, and I'll remind you in an email follow-up, just to give me feedback on the plan, things need more clarity, more time-bound goals, whatever it may be, please send that along. Excellent. And the final piece is really an exciting announcement. We'd like to be the first in a lot of things in Milford, and we've done it again. This is a great cooperation with the Milford Police Department. You may have already signed up or may be familiar with the Smart 911. And if you know how that works, when you call from your phone, the police department now has it rings down to the local police department, and they have a screenshot of who you are in case you can't breathe. They know they have a picture of you. You can upload the photograph, all the details, medical things. For people, public who may not be aware of that, it's a great service, and it actually works in every state or municipality that has signed up. So if you're driving, for example, in I don't know, let's say Denver, Colorado, or something, and they happen to be a Smart 911 customer, that would work there as well. So if you use your cell phone, you call 911 there, that information pops up. So the more states and more localities that have the Smart 911 concept, all the better for response time from medical professionals. How this works for Milford and why this is exciting for us in building upon our safety and security work that we've done is this would now would allow our staff members to have this app. They would download the app, the Smart 911 app, and if, let's say, they were in a situation, and God forbid we should ever have everyone in a situation where there's a lockdown, a legitimate lockdown, no one can talk, you're on the phone, you don't want to make the call, you have the Smart 911, you call from your cell phone, it rings to the state police, now it goes right to Milford Police with this app. And the state police are provided with the classroom roster, the location, the map of the classroom, where it's located, where the calls, where it's coming from, all these details, so you don't even have to be able to communicate on a 911 call, and all the information's there, so the police know where to go. They know who's in the class, who they should be looking for, and all those details. The best part about this announcement, because besides the fact that it keeps our schools and our kids safe, is it comes to us at absolutely no cost. Because we're piloting this and going to work out the kinks with this company, and the police department has established this great relationship, and I thank Tom O'Laughlin publicly for that. We get to roll this out in the fall at no cost to the district moving forward for as long as the town is engaged in this contract for the Smart 911. So really pleased to announce that as a safety and security initiative for the district, and that was just released this past week. So wanted to share that with the committee tonight, and I have nothing else, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, let's move on to Kathy. Report of the Assistant Superintendent for Business and Human Resources.
I have for the committee's approval this evening 4 warrants. The first warrant is in the amount of $18,029.21.
Take a motion from Patrick, second from Jen. All in favor?
The second warrant is in the amount of $10,279.55.
Okay. Take a motion from Dawn, second from Mike. All in favor?
The third
Motion
warrant
passes.
is in the amount of $755,357.02.
Okay. Take a motion from Joe, second from Joey. All in favor? Okay, thank you. So we have 6 in favor, 1 recusal.
And the last warrant is in the amount of $25,684.64.
Okay. Take a motion from Patrick, second from Mike. All in favor?
I do have a budget update for committee this evening. I can report that we will meet all of our contractual obligations, and we will be financially sound at the end of this month, and I will bring for the committee a budget transfer request in July, in the meeting in July, to offset some of the deficits, one being transportation. That was difficult and required a lot of additional work this year to manage, but we will finish the year solvent and have met all of our obligations.
Thank you,
Thank
Kathy.
you.
That's our favorite, that's the best news yet. Thank you, Kathy.
I do have a personnel update for the committee's information. No vote is required.
We do have a jury duty.
And we have we have one jury duty that does require a school committee's approval for Sherry Formato.
Okay, take a motion from Dawn, second from Jen. All in favor? Motion passes, unanimous in favor.
And I also have for the committee's approval a course reimbursement request in the amount of $12,394.
Okay. Take a motion from Joey, second from Mike. All in favor? Motion passes.
And I do want to remind the chair, we have one, I
Yes.
believe, one
We got
gift
one more
remaining.
gift. Yes, it is from Nina Kales in the amount of $50, and this is for Milford Community Network. So I do need a motion for that, to accept that gift.
Make a motion?
Motion from Mike, second from Patrick. All in favor? Motion passes. Thank you so much. Are we all set, Kathy?
Yes, thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Subcommittee updates, safety and security.
No update?
Okay, thank you. Policy subcommittee?
From a policy subcommittee perspective, I mentioned the cell phone policy earlier. The committee's recommendation, again, is to leave it at the discretion of the individual schools as part of their handbooks.
Okay. Any members have any questions or concerns?
Can you just elaborate again on the new cell phone lockers? How did those come about, and
That
are
may
we
be
all
a-
set for the budget? I mean, have those already been purchased?
Yeah, that may be a better question. From a budget perspective, that's Kathy.
Yeah.
What they are, it probably would be better for Carrie, because it was her,
Yeah,
for
alright.
Carolyn. So Kathy first, if you would, and then Joe.
Yeah, so just,
No,
like,
Kathy first.
I'm sorry.
And then Joe.
I can report that Carrie used some of her remaining instructional money at the end of the year to purchase the lockers for next year.
Okay. My big thing was, the outcry from the teachers that we had over this, and the need to do something because of the overwhelming distraction to the classroom. It was really difficult for the teachers, and one of the things that made it difficult, and Bob, you know this, because, we were, I don't know, whatever it was, sued for a broken phone, so we kind of had a hands-off approach, but just felt that it was at the point where something needed to be done to kind of put some controls around it and give the teachers what they need to be able to drive the classroom and foster a strong educational environment.
So as Carrie mentioned, they had put together a committee that was comprised of teachers, students, administrators, and they ended up reaching a general consensus as to the best approach to use going forward with cell phones. And it wasn't just students advocating for the cell phone usage, it was some of the teachers that were advocating for the cell phone usage as well, and they felt that if they were used responsibly, they could actually add value to the educational experience. So the concern that you raised about phones being taken away by a teacher and potentially lost in lawsuits and so forth, in order to address that, the approach that they're going to take is to purchase these cell phone lockers. If a student's in violation, that student's going to be asked to walk down to the central office and deposit that cell phone in the locker, lock it, and hand it over to hand the key over to the administration. So at no point the teacher's grabbing the phone or administrator's grabbing the phone. The student's putting it in the locker, and then the parent's going to be asked to come back and pick it up. So there's going to be some accountability there.
I love
on behalf of the parents.
Great. Any other policy updates?
So do we have to do anything with that, or I just basically say that's a recommendation and
Nope.
it's done
Yep.
with?
So the way it works is that you make the recommendation. I ask the rest of the board if they have any other input, and there's no policy to vote on. So, nope, we're
Okay.
good.
All right, so that's the cell phone policy. The next one was we looked at the bullying policy as well. Don had the question about sort of the zero tolerance rule. The definition of bullying is repeated action. So we went back and spoke with Jerry, and Jerry advised us that from a legal perspective, we certainly have the authority to make it more stringent if we want to make it more stringent. But from a practical perspective, that'd be a tremendous burden on the administration. They'd be spending their whole day just managing these potential bullying situations. And we also felt that a lot of that was already covered under the student conduct rules that are part of the handbook. So if I walk by and push you into the locker, I'm violating the student conduct rule. I don't necessarily have to violate the bullying policy. So our recommendation there as well is to leave it as is. For the time being, obviously down the road there might be some changes from a legislative perspective, but for now we're just going to leave it as is and leave it in the handbook.
Okay. Any members have any questions? Okay. Thank you so much.
Right. The other update, so we met today prior to the school committee meeting, and we reviewed 3 other policies. We'll be bringing the athletic complex policy to the committee for the second reading at the next meeting in July.
Great.
We'll be bringing the middle school athletics policy in for the first reading at that next meeting as well, and we'll be bringing the headlights policy to the committee meeting as well.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Athletic subcommittee. Did you guys meet? No meet? Okay. We will move on to, any member have any new business? Moving on. Have any member have any old business? Okay. Kathy?
I'm sorry, no.
I was just trying to get Jerry moved.
No, that's fine. Okay.
Which unit are we bargaining with in this executive session?
I can't hear you. I apologize.
Which unit are we bargaining with in this executive session?
There's a couple of them that are out there right now, and forgive me, I don't remember off the top of my head. We'll actually have that momentarily. I believe it's paraprofessionals?
It's not the teachers' union.
Nope. No, Nope, it's not. No, because you and I would be recusing ourselves. Yeah, I think it's cafeteria and paraprofessionals, so. All right, so we do have an executive session. We'll be taking a motion in just a moment to adjourn. We will be heading into executive session, the purpose of which is for a collective bargaining agreement. To conduct this meeting in an open session would weaken our position. We will need to take attendance for moving into executive session.
Yes, I agree.
Joe?
Yep.
Jen?
Yes.
Yes for me. Joe?
Yes.
Yes.
Don? All right. So we'll need to make a motion for adjournment.
So motion?
Motion from Patrick, second from Joey. All in favor? Meeting is closed. We will not be returning. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you.